my phone.
Hey guys, it seems like the river's down.
Okay, we're
live. Okay, we're finishing up after we moved out of our executive session. We took a recess and now we are back in open session. We need to make a motion on the decision of student A.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent and principal's recommendations for expulsion and a plan to go forward for student A. Does that suit you, Greg? For the, put a time limit.
Oh, yeah.
How long do you think the person should expel?
What was your recommendation, a year?
Remainder of this.
Remainder of the school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Let's see.
Let Ronnie have it.
I was gonna say weeks was louder, so.
Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Jefferson?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Terry?
Yes.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Now we're moving into our work session from our maintenance department. We have Mr. Mike Smith.
Which one would you like to start with, Mr. Smith?
Let's do the PowerPoint so we can give everybody a little bit of a background. Is it okay if I stand up?
Yeah, sure.
So, okay. A couple years ago, I was asked to put together my vision for the maintenance department by Jay Hummel, the assistant superintendent, and Mr. Rush. And I've been actually working on this thing ever since. So just to give everybody a little bit of what we do. I split this thing up into 3 categories. Our building systems, which are HVAC, electrical, plumbing, our water treatment, fire suppression, security systems, grounds, lawns, parking lots, irrigation, snow, ice removal, playground, sports facilities, equipment, all that. And then the building envelope. Doors, hardware, all our inspections every year, custodial supplies, services, our gymnasiums, our kitchens, the roofs, all of our levy projects, our retrofits, our remodels, like the elevator project, stuff like that. So, is this number 2?
Yep.
Okay. In my vision for this, I thought, okay, I need a ground supervisor, and I need the building care manager. Ground supervisor obviously supervises all the grounds personnel. He's taking care of the lawns, scheduling of the irrigation, all the repairs out there. Parking lots, everything that was in that category, he reports to the director of maintenance, which is me. My job as a maintenance director is to supervise all of these people, all the retrofit projects, all the construction projects, the overall maintenance budget, monitor all the building systems, and manage all the state building inspections, the fire inspections. We have a horn and strobe inspection every year, and we have a fire sprinkler inspection every year. We have an elevator inspection every 5 years. And then the building care manager supervises all the custodial staff, coordinates their schedules, coordinates the substitutes, manages all their orders, prices their supplies, the paper towels, the toilet paper, trying to get the best price on all of these things. Delivering these things, managing the copy paper, delivering, inventorying that, receiving that, maintenance of the custodial equipment, training, new applications of doing things, hazardous training, all that stuff. This person reports to me. Up until this July, I did all of that and still worked with the tools. As of July, I was able to get the ground supervisor, Mr. Roundtree. The good thing about Mr. Roundtree is not only does he do the ground supervision, he also works in the middle category as well. So He implements what he needs to do. He takes the calls he needs to take for grounds. When I need him in the buildings, he comes back and he's able to work in the building. So he's kind of a dual threat, if you will. Any questions on that?
Ground supervisor, that's suite OLA included, right?
That's everything, all 7 schools.
Okay.
So currently who's in charge of like the building care manager? Not on top, but as far as for supplies within each building.
I am.
So you're still taking care of all this?
I'm still taking care of most of that with the exception of coordinating their schedules and really doing the custodian substitutes. Mrs. Vaughn is helping with that. The principals are kind of doing that. We're just kind of trying to transition back into the principal's hands. It's too much work for one person. It's not effective. It's not efficient. It's,
Forward, I guess, am I moving forward?
what's that?
Too many irons in the
Too many, yeah, way too many. So you're not really good at any one thing. You're just kind of getting by on everything. So this was the manpower when I first started. We had, this is kind of out of order. I apologize. Can you go back up one?
That was what we was for.
Okay, can you go down? Sorry, this should be it should say manpower year 1. That's not it either. I don't know why it's all out of.
It just
Oh,
does.
wow.
That's your last one right there.
What was the first one?
Can you go back to 1 and 2? I apologize.
This one?
No, the first. That is 1. Okay, well then I'll just wing it. So, no big deal. I'll go off this one. The manpower, year 1 for me was 2 lawn mowing guys, okay? They were working 29 hours a week. Not to exceed 3 or 4 months. I can't remember. It was 3 or 4 months, something like that. In the building systems, there was myself, and I had 1 maintenance tech, Mark Feaster at the time. And then in the building care, we had, I feel like this is I sent the wrong thing over. I apologize, everybody.
That's okay.
But there was no building care manager. EHS had 1 head custodian, 2 40-hour, and 1 19.5-hour. We get that 19.5-hour because of the confliction with Percy and the Affordable Care Act. If they exceed over the 19 3/4 hours, the rule, then they're considered full-time. Mr. Jones is duck hunting.
Yep.
So EMS had 1 head custodian, 2 40 hours, 1 half-time. Buvey had 1 head custodian, 1 half-time custodian, which is the 19.5-hour person. Carberry, the same, had 1 head custodian. Oh, I apologize. They had 1 40-hour and 1 half custodian, same with Shadow Butte. Sweet Montour had the 1 half-time. Ola had the half-time. This person here did not exist. I have the dates in the other PowerPoint. I apologize again. I want to say it was 2017. We put 1 more person full-time. That half-time person at the high school went full-time. A year later, we bumped up the half-time person to full-time at EMS. Same with Butte View, same with Carberry Shadow Butte. So now we have what you see here, the 3 40-hour custodians, plus the head custodian. Butte View got 1 head custodian, 1 40-hour. Carberry Shadow Butte, same. Sweet's still a 19.5, Ola's a 19.5, and we have now created this warehouse person, 20 hours with me, 20 hours with food services. He delivers all of food services stuff, does whatever she needs. He works at the warehouse, receives all the stuff from the trucks, delivers all the custodial supplies, has made that thing organized, sparkly, clean. It's efficient. He's delivering the copy paper. He's just, it's amazing what he's done there.
Who's
Who is that?
Jim Gentry. He was halftime at the bus garage, halftime food service. Now he's just at the warehouse. So
So it is working.
it's wonderful. Now,
Like,
yes,
you described an increase in personnel.
Mhm.
What precipitated that increase?
what happened was we started having, we had churches renting this building, a church renting the Carberry building. We had all the Cherry Festival stuff. They put a policy into place that we needed to have a district employee, such as a custodian, on site during all of these events, which would be, the quilt show, the Miss Jim County, all the plays, all the different things that go on. Well, these guys were working overtime. If they, it was such that they were getting paid directly from whoever was using the building. Well, since the policy changed, we needed to have flexible people. We needed to have people there. And plus, with the increase in enrollment, it made more sense to bring those people on to 40 hours a week and just have.
Instead of paying them time and a half.
Yes, and from what I gathered, before the recession, that's about where we were. After the recession, they scaled back. I don't know to what capacity of staff other than the custodians that they scaled back to what I explained first. And I'll email everybody the right PowerPoint
Thank you.
after this, just so you guys can, as dates and everything. And so now I think from what I've gathered, we're back to where we were before the recession with, whatever the enrollment is now versus then. Okay. Any questions on that?
The ones in yellow, what are extra for?
The ones in, thank you. The ones in yellow. I'd love to have a building care manager. That was part of my goal. I asked, or they asked me, year one, what would you like to see? Year two, what would you like to see? Year three, what would you like to see? 2 40-hour grounds persons, it may be asking a lot, but what we have is we have temporary help, seasonal help, and they change just about every season, every year, with the exception of the guy that takes care of the high school lawn, who does an amazing job. But I never know what I'm gonna get. I never know if I'm gonna get anybody. Sometimes I get us all out there mowing and just doing too much. Sometimes I get a couple of good guys that go away to college. It's never consistent. If I had one 40-hour ground person with that 19.5-hour person, I'm pretty sure the 40-hour person could do every other lawn in the district with the exception of the high school. And maybe have just enough time to help us with sprinklers or whatever. And then in the wintertime, they can come in and help us with snow removal, ice melt, tuning up the machines, all of that stuff. And there's always spraying, burning, all of that stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you feel as far as grounds, as far as just lawns, have you personally thought what it'd be like to just sub that out versus us pay the 40 hours and pay bennies?
I've thought about it. It's never really developed into a conversation. Not sure where that would go.
So you haven't really sit down and put pen to paper to see if it's
No.
feasible to.
The thing that scares me about that is we're really flexible around sporting events.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta change the sprinkler in the fall, the sprinkler system in the fall, summer, and spring, different schedules. Then we have to kind of revamp the mowing schedule and the weeds and the fertilizer. And we have to work around all of the athletics and band and everybody else, baseball, everybody. And it seemed to me like it would be easier for us to just continue to do it because we have the knowledge of knowing who's coming in where and who we need to work around. And they have us on a schedule for football games, for baseball games. So it just seemed like it works better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I just got a thought. I used to sit on the rec district. And I sit there and thought to myself, the rec district mows, the city mows, the county mows, the high school mows. What would happen if you got all those entities together and created a center that instead of everyone having their own lawnmowers and having all their personnel? Would it be better if we all worked together and had one entity that was kind of a quasi-governmental agency that took care of this whole thing? Or would there be is there a savings there, I guess I'm saying?
To put me on the spot, my first answer would be no.
I'm not asking for an answer.
Sure.
I just wondered if somebody would look at it. Can somebody talk to the rec district and to the city and see if there's.
I think that's something that we would have to sit down and discuss.
Forrest Gump.
He works here. Okay. So this kind of explains what I was talking about earlier. Year one, I wanted to hire a ground supervisor. Hire a full-time 40-hour grounds person. We already had the 19-and-a-half-hour guy. I wanted to hire year two, a building care manager and a second 40-hour grounds person. Year three, I wanted to hire a building systems tech. What I got was, in year two, I got a building systems tech. Year three, I got the ground supervisor, and I still have yet to have a building care manager or either of the 40-hour grounds persons. Any questions on that? Okay, our scope of work. I left a lot out because I only had so much room and I didn't want to bore you guys too much. Grounds, we're mowing, we're weed eating, we're spraying, we're fertilizing, we're aerating, we're fixing the equipment. Constantly working on the equipment. Irrigation, the sprinkler maintenance. I could put a guy to work 40 hours a week just doing high school sprinklers. I am not exaggerating.
No, you're not. I work on mine.
Since we put in the new irrigation system, it has flushed out a lot of that iron that was coming through the well. I imagine that the startup of next spring, we're gonna have a little bit more. But if you guys, I don't know if anybody's noticed the difference. So we're watering now 7 days a week, 12 hours a day less than we were running the well. And it's all at night. We have no watering in the day unless we want to get a little extra water or we want to repair, run a test, and it doesn't conflict with the system. We were watering 26 hours a week really is what it took. As soon as you shut it off, you screwed up the schedule for the whole rest of the day.
Mike, just to make sure I'm clear on that. What you're watering out of now is your irrigation water, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The grass is green.
Yeah.
It's staying green. Granted, we had some plugs with the iron just because of the residual that was in, still in the lines. We're gonna have a little bit of that
And
still,
less calcium.
but it's getting better.
Your
We're
buildings
improving.
aren't yellow?
The buildings are not gonna be orange. The sidewalks are not gonna be orange.
On maintenance and repair, who's handling that? How much time of productivity is that actually?
On this side,
Yeah,
so I was doing some, Josh Roundtree does most of that stuff. He's changing bearings, he's changing tires all the time, he's changing the flails, he's flipping the roller halfway through the season, tuning up the machines, and it's a process. Sometimes one of the 19-and-a-half-hour guys would change flails for us. So it's kind of a team effort. Josh spearheads that.
and that's within his wheelhouse, obviously.
Yes.
I don't know if alleviating that or contracting that out. I was just spitballing, something outside the box, but I know the county contracts with our city down there. With Tim Perkins, I don't know how that would work, but I'm sure it's straining as well. That could be something to look into if that freed up Mr. Roundtree for other stuff you need him for.
The good thing about this is usually it's during the in-between seasons.
Okay.
So it's not like he's trying to change flails in the middle of July. It's usually like November, right when we're done mowing. Or he kind of just works on it through the winter, when we kind of have a little bit of a lull. We seem to have the lull from November to, snowfalls to back to January to beginning of March.
So it's working.
It works,
Okay.
and it works, and he's really good at what he does. We've taken these mowing machines to RMT Mechanical where we've purchased them. It's pretty expensive to have those guys, and it's clear over by the airport. So we're changing valves, we're changing solenoids. Scheduling the water time sometimes is a day event in itself, just at the high school. Josh is renting backhoes, he's renting equipment, we're digging holes, we're fixing leaks in the main. We do all of that. When I first started, I didn't have the personnel to do it. I subbed some of that stuff out. It's pretty expensive. It's anywhere from $400 to $1,000. We rent something and we go to town, we do it. We're getting pretty good at it. We're getting pretty fast at it. Snow and ice removal. That's us getting up at anywhere from 4:30 to 5 in the morning, and we're on site, and we go to the schools that are open first, and we go to the schools that open last. Head custodians are expected to come in early on those days and to know the night before that you're coming in early if it's snowing. Building systems. I'll give you an example of building systems. I'll read through it. Just the HVAC alone, I have 92 water source heat pumps between Carberry and Shadow Butte alone. That's 92 compressors, with the exception of the big units that have a secondary, that's belts, that's filters, that's capacitors, relays, thermostats, 92 water source heat pumps between 2 schools alone for 3 people. So we work on them sometimes, changing out motors. Sometimes I have to sub stuff out. We just can't do it all. We're working on the cooling towers. We're working on pumps. I have DDC controls. I control all the climate for all the schools with the exception of Sweet and Ola. Well, in the junior high, the best I can do is run the boilers or not run the boilers. But I can see if they're, from my computer, I can see if they're running properly or not. So when somebody calls me and says, hey, it's hot in the boardroom at our meeting, I get on my computer and I drop the temp for you. So I can see every unit that's on that. I get called. So DDC controls, I wake up every morning, it's the first thing I do when I get up. I have my coffee and I look at the DDC controls and I make sure, especially in the wintertime, I'm up all night because I've had some stuff happen in the middle of the night and on Sundays that things go bad. So I'm constantly on the DDC controls, probably 3 to 4 times a day minimum, just watching those. Watching the air conditioners, making sure that they're operating the way they're supposed to. We're constantly working on toilets, drinking fountains, faucets, sinks, garbage disposals. If I could have one wish, I would love to hire a plumber. We could keep him busy. We do the best we can to what's within reason. I'm not afraid to sell out some plumbing work. And we have to have it sometimes. I mean, there's only so much we can do. We work on the fire suppression systems, as you guys know. That never ends. We have the dry systems in the attics. It's been pretty good. Those guys have actually come in on this last Friday. They couldn't really do it in the summer because it was too hot too soon to change out the lines. So they're coming over on the week of Thanksgiving and they're gonna change. Yeah, the numbers were there about 11 lines at Carberry and about 14 at Shadow Butte, I think is what the numbers were for change outs. Yes.
Once we get those all changed out, are we going to put nitrogen in them this time?
No.
Why not?
You would have to change the whole system.
System, isn't that what you explained to us the
Yeah,
last
you'd have
time?
to completely change the whole system. You'd have to pull out what you had and put in a new system.
Okay.
But we will free up about probably $5,000 worth of repair clamps, so that's good.
Which we will do.
And can save those, huh?
Yeah, we'll reuse those.
What's the kind of longevity on them pipes? Do they, any idea?
What I hear is 20 years is
20
kind of when you start seeing some problems. And so, smoke detectors. And I went into an assembly once to watch my daughter do her Veterans Day assembly and the fire alarm went off just as soon as the gym got full. It was just a sturdy smoke detector right at the entryway. So I mean, we're constantly blowing those out with compressed air, watching those, watching the risers. We have air compressor at each fire riser room that we need to monitor, we need to watch. We have water treatment at Shadow Butte and Sweet that we need to maintain. And then we have all the electrical outlets, switches, breakers, coils, contactors, lights, ballast that we all do. And then on the building care side of things, our scope is to order their supplies, inventory their supplies, deliver their supplies. I price their supplies. I'm every 3 months, I'm price comparing on all the cleaning supplies that we have, from brooms to hand soap to
Paper
to
products.
pay, whatever, yeah. When I started, the custodians were doing the gymnasium floors. And then they were subbing out, a team to come in and
Finish.
put the polyurethane on and finish them. So I watched that for a year. My first year, what I said is, I'm just gonna watch and see what's going on here, and then I'll make the changes. Josh, so it would take every custodian that was in the building a full 40 hours a week to prep the floor, to get it ready for another team to come in and put the finish down. Josh Roundtree and I can sand those floors in 2.5 hours and have them coated the same day.
So previously it was taking that time to
Yes.
sit.
Yeah, time is money, right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
And so, and I'm doing a 1-coat system now, not a 2-coat system, so we save thousands of dollars there. We didn't know how to do it, we just did it. Worked out, we're getting better every year.
Yeah, I gotta commend you on that. The high school looks really nice. And the junior high too, but the high school turned out really nice.
Thank you. Constantly doing ceiling tiles. PE classes hate us. Ceiling tiles are always coming out. We have one lift, everybody's scared to get in it, except for me and Josh. Okay. We're putting up banners. We put up the wall pads in the high school, the new ones that you see. That was Roundtree and myself. We're doing lights. We're doing light covers. They're inventorying the paper. We do kitchen repairs for food services as far as we can go. You know, we'll do what we can for her.
Do you have are you switching to LEDs or anything like that, or are we still using all?
What I've done through the years is every parking lot in the district has LED exterior lights. The high school, Carberry, Shadow View, View, the middle school, they all have LED lights outside. To convert inside from these T8s is kind of the direction I want to go, but I kind of want to know what we're going to do down the road before I can, that's what we would update with.
Can I back up to banners?
Yeah.
So does that include everything like in the atrium and stuff when they're doing things of that nature, homecoming and stuff like that? Or?
No, not that stuff. More like the stuff you see hanging in the gym.
Gotcha.
Okay. Mark Feaster actually does most of that stuff. I'll have to run him a scissor lift, and we would tag team that, to begin with, but he does a lot of that stuff at the high school. Kitchen repairs, roof stuff, windows, doors, door levers, door closures, exit devices. We're constantly maintaining, replacing, working on those things, locks, all of it. I've left out a lot of stuff, but that's just an example of what we do. 3 people. Any questions on that?
3 people?
Yeah.
3 people, 9 buildings. And your custodial staff. So that's why your custodial staff has 0.25 of their salary comes from maintenance, is because they do some of the other things like bulbs. They can fix minor issues, but anything that's on this list is coming from this group typically, unless there's a head custodian that can actually do it. So.
Yeah, Mike, do you have head custodians that can change out a faucet?
Yeah. Our high school guy was on the maintenance department.
Yeah.
He thought he would like to maybe there was an opening at the high school, and he thought, you know what, I'd really like to do that and scale back a little bit.
Mhm.
And so that's what he's doing. He's a perfect fit. He knows the building inside and out.
So
and
minor
he-
type of plumbing things.
Yeah, yep. He's changed out a faucet last Thursday.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of that stuff. And I would say most head custodians can do minor things.
Right.
So being that he was in the maintenance department longer than I was, it was a good fit, and he kind of has saved us from having to do a lot of things at the high school.
this one look good?
Sure.
Some way you've been working on?
Yeah, these are some of the levy projects, that we have done since I have been here. Okay, with the dollar amounts. Granted, when I started, the storm drain and that culvert that runs behind the home site football bleachers, the resurfacing of the domes, that stuff was in motion when I got hired. I kind of walked into it, kind of got a toe in, toe out, did what I could. But everything after, those are all things that we did with your levy funds.
Kind of the elephant in the room for me, you said you came in with a resurfacing development. Can you kind of dispel, and I know it's on the internet feed too, because none of us were privy or on the board, and I tried to get information as to what unfolded about that, aside from attending school board meetings, which is what I should have done. Can you kind of enlighten us to where it went sideways? I mean, we spent almost $1 million on it, of course, 100,000 short of the way it looks now. To me, it devalues that building. Is that okay?
So like I said, I was just coming on. They didn't really release me to really manage those projects. I was just getting my feet wet. Nobody really, I could talk to 100 people and 100 of them will say, I've never worked on a monolithic dome. You know, my suggestion was to grind the rough patches. They wanted to mock up their stuff on the A-dome, thinking, well, if we don't get done in time, at least the kids can get in the classroom. I suggested, let's do the auto dome. It's the smallest one.
See if it works.
Let's mock it up.
Yeah.
Let's have all our problems on a small scale. And when it was bumpy, I asked if they would grind it down. They ground it down and smooth. It obviously looks better.
Yeah.
The change orders came in very high to grind off the rough patches on the rest. I think that might have been the only snag as far as aesthetics. It's kind of hard to match your color, even in gallons of paint when you're going to Home Depot and painting your house. You know, these were lots of 55-gallon drums of this stuff.
White is not white, yeah.
You know, yeah, and it is. It's light blue, white. I'm not even really sure what the color is. The change orders came in really high. And when I say high, I think they were upwards of about $300,000 just to grind off the rough patches. And that's really the story.
If we were to tackle that project again, by recognizing value in that current facility, what would be your suggestion tackling that going in? Because I've gone out and researched and actually found a company that built that school. So I don't know, and that's a whole other topic.
Sure.
But you came in late, if we even contacted those people, but would there be a way to make it look right, you know, a scope of work right out of the gate?
I've tossed it around. I thought that maybe they could weld the PVC outer layer, heat fuse it. I've seen them, you know, weld plastic and micron before. I didn't know if you could do this. I was told you can't. You know, not with that. The sheets were so big.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that. I started going down that road, and then it was just kind of, it is what it is kind of a thing. I'm like, okay, I got to do my job. I got to move forward, and somewhere down the road, well, I'm sure this will be addressed. You know, but it wasn't really in my scope to do a lot of homework trying to figure out, okay, what do we do to make this better? I've had some reps say, you know what, you could have done an epoxy, you could have done this, you could have done this, but I don't think it would have been any cheaper as grinding it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where we're at. I hope that answered anything you need.
Oh yeah, I mean, kind of in a commonsensical world, probably right out of the get-go, we would have ensured that it was a uniform and grind.
Sure.
So, and then we would have budgeted on what that price would be.
Yeah. But I don't know, I think that,
I mean, when you look at a roof's gonna leak, right?
So your first thought as a contractor should be, I'm gonna have leaks. You should build it in your bid, you have to build leaks. And that's, to me, that's common sense. Whatever. I'm not here to cast stones. Right. Some other.
Yeah, LED lights in all the parking lots. And we got a reimbursement from Idaho Power on all of those. The elevator project, re-roofing the gymnasium, that was something that, I wanted done years ago. We finally got it. It turned out really good. The suite Montour School looks fantastic. That turned out good. Caleb put in the exterior lights and the soffit. He got some LED lights, threw them in today.
Oh, good.
Everybody's happy. We just kind of got to work our way in now and, you know, doctor it up a little bit on the storefront and the interior.
It'll turn out nice.
Yeah. Seal coating and patching and striping, when I started, I don't have a lot of records of when things were being done, what was being done. And so the first thing I did was, hey, let's get these things seal coated. So we got all the parking lots that we could, changed out the heating and air conditioning rooftop units at the middle school above the cafeteria and over the band room. They were original. So that happened, I want to say 3 years ago. So, I mean, there's a list. Started Shadow Butte. They had the gravel and the fish tanks. They had that size of gravel in all their sinks and toilets when I started. So we installed a whole building sediment filter. It's about as big as me. It's centrifugal and it flushes out all the sand before it goes into the building. That has done wonders. Saved us a lot on placing faucets, fixtures, toilets, all that stuff. We've had the well went down in Shadow Butte. I was actually on my 20th anniversary in Mexico. First vacation ever. We lose the well at Shadow Butte. So yeah, we've had to change the well out there. We changed the well, the irrigating well at the junior high. We dropped this one a few inches. It's constantly doing stuff. Any questions on those projects?
No, I like to see it though.
Okay,
Thank you.
you bet. There's more to add. They're just getting wrapped
This is
up.
something
Can
that
you give
email
us a
to.
detailed list of all that?
It's on
there.
It's in the board packet.
So one thing that's really interesting that I really like that he's done is the cafeteria stage floor retrofit. I don't know if you've been up there, but by pulling the carpet once, and polishing that concrete down, the maintenance on that drops to nil, nothing really. Basically, you can mop it, you can put a wax on it, you don't really even need to. Once it's sealed. Eventually, if we're looking at replace carpet in the elementaries, especially your hallways, it's the best way to do it. Yeah, it's, most schools are going to that. Well, most big commercial buildings are going to that polished concrete look. And I will tell you, custodial staff love it.
Well,
No stripping, no waxing.
well, they've made it aesthetically looks good. It looks good now too. It didn't used to, but
Yeah.
they made it so it does now.
We changed out the floor on that stage as well to a Nora flooring. It's a rubber flooring. There's no stripping or waxing there, and this stuff's indestructible. It's the same stuff that's on the ramp.
An epoxy, is that what it is?
No, it's a Nora. It's a rubber flooring. So if you've been up the 88 ramp that we retrofitted in front of the office at the junior high, it's that same material. So,
Right, I was in that building last night, I noticed how heavy dust was on the north wall there,
Mhm.
opposite the stage, and there's a hole, and it just plugs solid. Is that not being used, or?
no, it's not being used, and that's something we go in when we can, get it cleaned up, and then it accumulates and we clean it up. We do not run that unit. It is heat only, and it is already hot in that room, as you all know.
Yeah.
That unit hasn't ran since I've been here.
Could it just be?
I was told, I'm aware that you had a plan to air condition the auditorium from the gymnasium.
So I sized that unit up that feeds the cafeteria and the kitchen. It's large enough to where we can tap into the auditorium and provide air conditioning for that, zone it off.
On an as needed basis.
As needed basis,
Makes sense.
all the Cherry Festival programs, plays, all that stuff that we do. So,
Cool.
Any idea on cost, or is that's gonna have to be in the future?
that'll be in the future, yeah, whatever, levy or facilities bond or whatever you wanna do, but, I don't think it'll be terrible.
Plant facility.
Yeah, plant facility.
So, this is stuff that was, for this current levy. So, the first column here, you guys have all seen this before, I think. It's been presented to you. This first column is the total. This is how much we plan on spending the first year. That's how much we plan on spending on the second year. We have done the gymnasium roof at the middle school, recarpeted 2 classrooms, did the suite, Montour roof, fascia soffit. And the fire suppression lines, they did their takeoffs on Friday. They'll be out over Thanksgiving. I started kind of going down the road of the sped ed improvements, other things. That's when we got into the summer and we just kind of held off on projects because there was a big unknown. And there's still kind of, the track, I'm in the process of getting bids for that right now. But I'm just waiting for approval to move forward on some things and we're just gonna, with the year that we've had, we're just gonna kind of play it by ear and do what we can with what we have.
So are you saying that you've actually done some of those things that were up on the last bond that failed?
On this current bond, no, on this current levy,
Oh,
on this current levy, sorry, yep.
So just give you, so on the track, they budgeted within this year's budget $100,000. Well, that's not gonna cover the track. But with the idea that next year, which is June, the other half payment, so there's a total of $336,000 that we have budgeted out of this supplemental levy for just the track. He's getting the bids on that right now based on what they have. Once we get those back, we'll see exactly where we're at with the cost would be. The only thing that I've asked him to hold off on is that $90,000 electronic blocks until we get later in the spring to see how our budgets kind of play out. And then it's because we couldn't get them done before Christmas anyway. So I said, well, let's wait till after January, see where our budgets are going to lay out, and we can get those bids in January to February, which then we can put those in, hopefully by June, or have them ready by June for the following year. A lot of these other things, the only other thing on here, I think if you look at OLA down here, this $50,000 modular replacement is set aside because we don't know where we're at as far as that goes. When we talk about $70,000 for modular replacement, that's not going to cover the cost of the modular, and it would be over the 2-year thing. So there's money that's sitting there. We don't know where we're going to go with that. So does that make sense? But many of these, all the rest of these projects are on track, on task, except for special ed. We're not sure what we're doing. Again, what this board decides to do within our middle school probably.
And the Carberry, potential modular
Oh, yeah.
for 5th grade.
Right.
That's kind of.
And that's in that second year. Are we gonna put 5th grade into modular at Carberry, or are we gonna do something with this building? So that's kind of where we're at on that. Yeah. Does that answer those questions? It's kind of where we're at as far as projects. I think another question that Terry, and I know we're kind of running out of some time, but he also presented it. These are projects that are over $500,000.
Oh, okay.
Lists of things that would come out to over $500,000 total. There's a list in each of the schools: fire sprinklers, middle school, classroom renovations, all the way down the list. And then there's a second list in here of less than $500,000.
So Mike, what I would like to work with is some numbers. We've talked about a maintenance levy that would last for like 5 years or 10 years. Would $500,000 do what? And I'd like to maybe to the super, or you, kind of give us a feel of where that, what kind of monies we need to get ahead of the maintenance instead of be behind on the maintenance.
I can't give you that number today, I don't think I can either.
I'm not asking today,
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
look-
asking.
But you look at that list, I mean, and again, it's been that deferred maintenance, we've deferred these things, and now we're at a point where we have some
Yeah.
facility needs that we have to fix, and so do we put part of that into a bond, or do we put it into, or do we do a combination of a bond for construction and a plant and facilities levy, which is something I've talked to the board a little bit about, that I believe is something that will stabilize our maintenance of facilities for the next 10 years at least, so.
And a lot of these things depend on how we move forward, with, I don't know what that looks like, to be honest.
Can I ask a question about the track? When we come back with those bids?
Yeah.
Can they get that done so that some of that will be done for the track season before they start their track season?
No, this will be something that will be
I mean, it's pushing-
started as soon as they're done
Done.
practicing for state and they take off for state, and we can get it going and have it ready before football season.
Yep, so it's already pushed into summertime.
Yes, that's the thing though, a lot of these levy projects, and that's why, I'm just gonna say it, I hate May levies because I can't get a lot of stuff done. I can try to, plan ahead and just hope that a levy's gonna pass and then we can move forward on the projects, but it's usually the year after.
Yeah.
If I receive a bid and everybody likes it and we wanna move forward, if I schedule it next week, we'll be lucky to squeeze it in the summer. That's how crazy busy everybody is right now. And so we wanna do that as soon as we can. We don't wanna wait till March to say this, cause then it'll be November or October before they even get us there. I talked to these guys and they've had some of those school districts that waited a little bit too long, and they're redoing their track right in the middle of their football season, and it's a nightmare. You can only imagine. But,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Joe?
One more question. So a lot of these things we're doing, we talked about deferring things, and we've done that for quite a long time. But some of these things is now the right time as everyone's so busy. Should we go back to the buck if we waited, or do you think it's just something we have to do now?
Well, I think that we need to do what we can do when we have the money. I hate to prolong things any longer. Of course, I don't make that decision anyway, so it's kind of, when things get approved, I move on them. I don't, I'm kind of the,
I'm just thinking, we're.
who's to say, hypothetically,
Sure,
things
10
can be
years.
great for 12 more years,
Yeah,
or they can tank in 3 months, we just don't know.
Yeah, as I said, the junior high gymnasium roof, obviously, we held off on a little bit, depending on if the bond passed or not, and if we were gonna be altering that facility, then that money would have gone to waste.
And I feel like we were playing with fire a little
Yeah, we
bit
got
too,
too
because
critical.
it was getting pretty ugly underneath there. So. I
It's
would say,
understandable.
yeah, if we have the money and the time,
Yeah.
I say we do it. But, we think, Mr. Woods, are we,
What do you mean?
any other questions, are we?
Oh.
Oh, sorry about.
It's her meeting.
What I would like to do is digest a little bit of this, go
Sure.
through it, and in a month or two, come back and say, this is what we've been doing, and, just kind of give us an update, so, the community really rails on us for maintenance, and I think this is wonderful that you give us an opportunity, the scope that you're doing with the toothpicks you have to do with.
I do have a hard question for you, if you don't mind, Madam Chair. In your mind, what do you see as our specific need right now? I know you can't tell the future. Do you see something that you think's gonna bite us?
What do you wake up in the middle of the night worrying about?
Losing power at Shadow Butte, not having a backup generator in the middle of winter is one. That substation loses power quite a bit. And the last time it did, it was, I think it was 10 below. and power was out for over 8 hours. We had to cancel school, do a snow day, and we lost our cooling tower and almost lost our pumps, and I got there just in time to bypass it and shut it down. I think that's a need. I think school safety is something that people should consider. I mean, this day and age. And really, Ronnie, what I think is just what I think, you know,
I know, but you're there every day. We're not, right? That's why I respect your opinion in it. And that's why I'm asking. I want to know because you're there, you see it every day.
I think all these needs are very important. I think the school safety, secured entryways, door locks, all that stuff, I think is something that we need to start really considering.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Smith?
I just want to say thank you for bringing all this to us.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is all going to be in our board book, right? So
It's already there.
It's already there.
No, this is great.
I'll resend the,
Thank you.
The
actual
missing
PowerPoint.
And I'll reload it too.
I'll get it to Heather and she can get it to you guys.
I'll reload it on board book or on Assembly.
What some of you guys may not realize is that we're changing from one system to another, and we're having a few hiccups. Is that fair to say?
Sure. When don't you, right? You were smooth sailing.
That's
It would
me, I
be-
gotta throw a wrench in the thing that was locked.
Yeah. You didn't think that was getting too easy for you.
Thank you, Mike.
What do you think? Am I done standing up here?
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you. Go home for dinner.
What's that?
Go home for dinner.
Do I get to leave now?
That wasn't the law.
We're gonna,
You don't have to.
so, Vice Chair, we're gonna adjourn from this meeting, if you don't mind, and then we'll move into the committee.
Okay. We need to make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Nice second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so where is all this? Is it up? Everything?
Yep, it's in the other meeting. So Jody can start us off again, or you got it? Okay.
I don't know.
It's the one that's work session facility task force committee meeting. And then you go over one more where it says select meeting, right next to it.
Two of them?
Uh-huh. And then there you go.
Alright. Can I go to the restroom real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we can take a
Another
break.
break.
Yeah, because she has to start it, so technically,
Absolutely. It's a lot, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
let me pause this down real quick first.
We'll start when people come back.
I'm curious.
I enjoy the fact that you're willing to serve and help us out. We've got a big job ahead of us, and we hope you will help us resolve this.
Ronnie Weeks, current trustee for now. I want to thank you all for being here and being willing to serve. Thank you.
I'm Jody Harris, trustee, and thank you all for coming and putting in your time.
I'm Bill Hamilton, and along with Jefferson, we are both lame ducks. I guess that's the best approach I can start. Yeah, anyway, I'm a retired farmer, and again, I welcome you too.
Yeah, Bob Peter, current trustee, running for reelection. So I might be in your boat, or I might be in your boat, or I don't know where I might be. And I would thank people for being here and part of the meeting.
I'm Amanda Beers. I guess I'm not technically part of the new task force committee, but I did help out with the facility committee for a year plus. We were working on that, so I'm an interested party.
Brian Gregory, I own 2 businesses downtown. I'm also running for city council. And I've lived in Emmett for 25 years. Actually grew up in Meridian when it was only about 35,000 people, and graduated from Meridian High School. That kind of dates me this. And I saw a lot of growth in the Meridian area. Went from 1 high school to year I graduated went to 2, and 2 years after that it went to 3, and so a lot of growth going on there. So I'll give it the time I can. And speaking of that, I do have a city council meeting, so I might be able to. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is John Sonny. Been here 13 years. Spent 5 years on the zoning commission. I was planning and zoning at the time. Then I spent another 2 years on the city council. And currently I'm a triple retiree is what I am. Spent 26 years in the Navy, 19 years with the California Department of Corrections, the prison system. 13 years that I've been over here. I've been a part-time charter bus and scheduled bus driver for Boise, Winnemucca, and still doing that. I do it probably 2 to 6 days a month. So I got a pretty fulfilled life. Been involved since I've been here. 13 years. We established what was called Wings and Wheels, a little car show out there at the airport. And only because when I came over here, I thought this airport's in bad shape, and we went through a lot of work and a lot of pains and everything else, and got it kind of up to speed. So never had taxi lines in here when I came here, and now they have 9 hangars out there. There's a possibility of being more. So I like Emmett. Been a lot of places in my life. There's no other place that I want to move to right now. If I hit the lotto tomorrow, I'd still stay here. And I'd take my money and put it in the school system.
Shannon Miller. I'm a retired educator, spent 21 years in public school teaching in Middleton and Boise School District. 12 years as a university professor at Northwest Nazarene, and some work also at Oklahoma State. I come from a family of one-room school teachers. I have a real passion for providing an education for our kids. We need to give them the things that they need to succeed, and the teachers need the things they need to succeed with. And I'm just hoping to be part of making that happen.
Tracy Walton, I've been here over 60 years.
My name is Clark Fear. I'm a local business owner. I just have a passion for youth. I've worked with youth my entire profession. That's what I do for them. I have currently 3 kids in the school district, and 4 will come in the next 2 years. So, I'm just very interested in the things that go on with the future of schools, and sharing the same passion as you all do to make sure the kids and teachers and the community gets what they deserve.
I would like to make a recommendation to put a member of the facility committee on this committee. So I don't feel that we should alienate that group. So as a board, school board, I'd like to put it on as an agenda item at our next November meeting. They, you know, this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the facility committee. I mean, they put in a lot of work, and it's narrowing down our needs of what we need as a school district. And I don't want to have anybody feel excluded. So anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. So with Mr. Roybacker, who isn't here, and someone from the facility committee, that would make 14. Anyway, that'll be on this agenda item on our November meeting. So, moving on. Mr. Woods, would you like to take over?
I can. So the basics of Mr. Hamilton's motion was that this committee would be put together to review all the data that you asked and we get, with the idea that the board would like to have, my understanding is the board would like to possibly run a bond in the spring of this next year. What that will consist of is up to what the recommendation of this board will give to the board. So what I did is I kind of put together a timeline, and these dates are draft dates. And so if the dates are conflicts or what we're gonna do on those dates, but we start off with the introductions like we talked about, review our task force charge statement, which is this group is to work to make a recommendation to the board on how to address the district facility needs. That's what we're trying to do. How do we address our facility needs? What that looks like is up to this group. The current process timeframe that I put up here reflects a potential 2020 bond levy. That could be as early as March, it could be May, or this facility, or the board may say, no, we're not ready, and it could be a year from now. But this gives us an idea of what I put together. It's pretty quick. The data review is all the information that I sent to you in an email, so you should have had access to it, plus it's in a hard copy. Anything that you ask from me that I can get, I will get to you. I'll get it to you in digital form and also a hard copy.
You sent stuff to us in an email?
Yes, email that I was given.
I never received anything.
I have waltonfarms@gmail.com.
Check your junk drawer.
Okay, and I apologize. So from now on, I mean, you should have an email of this electronically, and anything that you ask that I can't give you that night, I'll make sure I get you a copy of it as quickly as possible. So what I have in here right now is your facilities committee presentation, which was presented to the board in September. I have the 10-year facility maintenance plan and the building condition declaration form, which is in that 10-year facility plan, which was done in 2015. It gives you kind of an update, and we can go through all this. Enrollment projections, I've given you our current enrollment. That was the new hard copy that I gave to you just this evening. So you can put these into your binder. I like to have hard copies to flip through. But that gives you where our capacity is right now. Part is informing that I'm off the Patriot Center, which actually wasn't even in that form. I had to add it. Has a maximum capacity of 36, so they have room for 2 more. So I believe where they're at currently. And then building capacities, historical building costs in the Treasure Valley. I have some of that information. It was given to me in an email today, so I haven't put it into a good form, but it's easy to read. We have the cost of, I have the cost of the Middleton School, but again, that was done in 2011. I have also the Ridgeview cost, and so all that will be given to you. That's the data that we have. I put it down as a bullet point to talk about safety and security because it's a huge thing that's on everybody's mind. Any other things, and then future agenda items for information only. Today is what I had for a plan. The next date that I thought we could actually meet was November 4th. Kind of a review. Discussion topics, I kind of go through our mission and vision statement, which our vision statement talks about modern classrooms for our students. Student staff, and I can kind of give you some details about that. We compete against the West Ada school districts for staff and actually for students. And our facilities are one of the things that can draw students and can draw staff to and retain staff, when we're investing in that. But then I thought we'd get into kind of a needs prioritization, and all of this is up for change. If you guys don't like the way we're doing this, You do it in small groups typically, come up with some ideas, what are the needs based on everything we have here, and think that we come up with, and then see if we can come up with a list of, here's what we need as a priority. Is it a high school, or is it a junior high, or is it, we just fix the things we currently have? And so that's your job. I'm not gonna tell you what we need to do. I'll give you all the information. Then I thought, November 13th, we could have a community listening session, which is before our board meeting. If we have a prioritized list by then, we can say, hey, here's what we're looking at. If the community wants to give some input, we can do some other listening sessions as well, not on that same date, but maybe coffee. I've had coffee with the principals where you have a chance to sit down, or I go to certain places and say, hey, if you have concerns about this, go to the Rotary, go to some of these, and show them what our prioritized list looks like. Because we have to get the community behind this, and if we go after a bond. Then we have November 21st. If there's any changes to what our prioritized list would be, December 4th is where we could put our recommendation together to be presented to the actual board for if there's going to be an action item at that point. So I kind of gave us a timeline, and if those dates are conflicts for people, we can change those dates. It's just so that was kind of what I put together because I was trying to process how we're going to walk through this. Because to run a March bond, the board would have to make a decision in January because the ballot language has to be in January. To run a May bond, you have to have it, I believe, in March, just in mid-March. So that's the direction we go, okay? So that's kind of where the timeline came from. Any what you know of right off the bat with those dates, or? Yes, Tracy.
Well, first thing, I'd like to get a lot of information on that middle school, see what's there. Personally, I need to know if that thing's worth saving.
Okay, so.
And I may think we need a professional, or I don't. But that's what I think. To me, it looks like a really rushed. I was on the committee when we built the two elementary schools. We worked for a grant now.
Well, and again, we've had committees working for over 2 years on this. You've actually had a middle school. I was looking back, I got data on 2000, you guys had a committee that was looking at the middle school and what needed to be done then. So this committee is all actually really looking at again, taking the data, whatever you want, but you also have the facilities committee that's done a lot of that legwork for us already. Does that make sense?
So are we synthesizing what's pretty much already been done, is that?
I don't know. I would assume that was what the direction we wanted to go. Is that right? I mean, this is a board.
Well, my motion was to the fact that we want to look at what the options and the costs are and present them to the board, but the board is the one that's going to have those options and those costs. And at this time, we don't have those. And so that they need to be put together in a way that we actually understand what the populations might be, what facilities capacities are now, what they need to become. I mean, I know you guys can fill in a lot of numbers there, but to me, we just really have to look at the entire thing to see what a feasible and responsible bond looks like. And that's kind of my look.
I think also if you have, say you decide to build a high school, what are you gonna do with the middle school? What are you gonna do with the current high school? If you're gonna put the middle school in the high school, how much work are you gonna do on that facility? What are you gonna do with this facility? Do we wanna add classrooms on here and move the administration out to another facility? We've got a building on the highway that could house the administration. It could also house Black Canyon if we wanna go to the expense of doing that. So I think there's a lot of options on the table that you have an opportunity to look at to, maximize the dollars that we invest in our community. And I want to emphasize also, and I don't know if this is a charge that Bill would put together or not, but My position on this board is, over the years, we haven't been good stewards of the investments that we have made in our community. I sat at a board meeting and heard our last superintendent, and this is a quote, "We have neglected the buildings." He actually said that in a board meeting. I don't want that to happen again. I want us to put a policy together so Mike has a marching orders to be able to take care of the things and have the dollars to do it. So 40 years or 50 years from now, we're not gonna have a community committee sitting here having to make these kind of decisions again. Because I remember Parkview, and Parkview was in the same condition that the middle school's in.
Madam Chairman, to answer Mr. Walt's question on the middle school, one of the things that we've done there is we just put a new roof on the gymnasium. And we really aren't, we've got a couple of sections of building there. One of those was built back before I went to high school, in 1954, I believe. And the other section is a more modern section, including the gymnasium and the auditorium and the cafeteria and some of that. And so, I think we're looking at, kind of two different buildings in some senses, in which we've had a lot of community input that they don't want to lose that gym. It's one of the best gyms we've got in the district. I think that's fair to say. So I think there's several different issues we got to look at regarding that.
And we also have to deal with all of we have to decide what to do with our 26 kids up there that are without a school. Whether they're moved to suite, whether they're housed temporarily right now in the community center. We have to put some money on the table to support that local school. But that's gotta be in the mix here. So we got a lot of things to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. If you look in your notebook, you should have, well, actually, the one I just gave you should give you where we currently are within our capacity, that building capacity. Bakery Center is the only one that's off. Ola, and again, you have to look at this. This was built with the actual old Ola school in mind, with a percentage of 22 students per class. So when you look at Ola's capacity, says 44. 44 in that Ola school is a lot of kids. I don't think we have 44 in there. It'd be great to have that many, but that would pack that room to 2,200 square feet total. But everything is based on 22 students. Suite has a capacity of 88 and currently has 41 students, so we're sitting at about 46% capacity in Suite. This building here has a capacity of 682. That is 22 students in every single room that we have here. Now that wouldn't include, so that you have to take into, that's classroom space. That doesn't give you title rooms. It doesn't give you any offices other than what you currently have as the office space here. So it's never realistically going to get all the way to 682 in capacity here.
Does that include the modular spring?
That is the building, not the modulars. Okay, all right. Your Shadow Butte has capacity at 616, and it's currently at 517, which again gives you a computer lab. It gives you the gymnasium as well. Carberry is at 660. You have, I think, 2 more classrooms up there, so that's why they have a little bit higher number, and it's 544. The middle school, they say the capacity is 766. That's including those 2 portables out there. We're currently at 752 with 5th grade in there. And the high school without the Patriot Center portables, that doesn't include those. We're at Patriots, you're right. Perda, you're at 785 and you're right at 748. So those are your current numbers. It's really difficult to do projections because the projections we have as far as our, one year we have a 1% increase, this year we have a 5% increase total. So if you look at an average projection of 2% increase in your enrollment, we're gonna break 3,000 for 2027. But you could have a year, this year we lost a few students because of Ford's charter opening up. And so our elementary numbers stay pretty static, but our secondary rose. And that's where you see the growth. But I'll get you the projections and I can project it out, and we'll get it projected out. I have, we were projected to be at 2547, I believe, this year, and we're at 2650 already, so we're 100 over what was projected in the last projection. But that gives you an idea of where we're at right now and where our growth is. Like I spoke to our board, we have 2 subdivision growth that are within the city limits. One is out here off of 12th Street, which is gonna be a total of 242 homes. And we have 2 more phases in Happy Valley, Harvest Valley, that's another 90 homes. So those are just 2 subdivisions here within the school district. And within that, you're looking at, if you look at 1.5 students per household on average, you're looking at 450 new students into the district if the economy stays on its path over the next, 5 to 6 years, probably, we'll see that, and actually less than that. And it's coming this way. They're getting ready to have one of the meetings on Highway 16, the extension to the freeway. And so, we've got a lot of growth, I believe, potentially coming this direction. And that's why we went to that board meeting, or we went to the economic development meeting for the vision. And it's in here as well. If you look at that second page after land and building statistics, that's what we currently have. The next page, this was done Wednesday, June 19th at Jim County Courthouse. This was a group that looked, and we weren't involved in this, but if you look at it, it says a new high school is number 3 on their list. I mean, and that's the higher the number, the more important it was. It was a higher priority. So that's what the community says is a priority within our district, which ties right into with what our facilities committees surveys talk about is that. But I know I'm getting ahead of the game, but there's a lot of data in here. You know, you can look at how our buildings, and if you want to get into our 10-year facility maintenance, you can look at how it was scored out in 2015. You know, the middle school has some issues. This building has some issues as far as fire suppression and things that need to be updated if we're going to bring it back into an elementary school. So there's a lot of stuff in here. So let's keep talking. I'm doing too much about it. This is yours.
Well, my thought is them subdivisions are going in no matter what. The number of children that are gonna come in them subdivisions are pretty well gonna fill our schools. End of story. And we're at the point of being maxed now. Just those subdivisions themselves. That doesn't include any other growth.
That's another element.
Besides what's going on out where I live, where they put in 9 new homes in the last 6 months. And so that's no other growth. Them 2 subdivisions can drastically change what we're looking at as a school district.
If you look at, let's say we decide that we want a new high school, that will do even more towards bringing more people into the valley. I mean, there's words that our kids use for our high schools right now that aren't appropriate here, and that's, if you change the culture a little bit, you're gonna see a change in growth. You'll see a change in people wanting to come here, and then it's bigger than that. Even if you change the high school, you change the business atmosphere. You then turn around and change the residential atmosphere, and I think you change, possibly can change the entire culture and structure of what it looks like right now. And I think in a lot of ways a good way. I'm not saying bad, as long as we do it right on the other side of what I'm looking at too. So you've got it all working in conjunction with each other. So we're all on the same page, because any change we do here affects the county, affects the police force, affects the fire department, there's all kinds of different changes that can happen. So my circle of friends wants me in high school. But I also, there's definitely different ways to do it. But we have a junior high that's so old that, brick is scheduled for 75 years. I mean, we're reaching that on a good portion of that building, although it looks in pretty good shape on the outside. There's all kinds of different things we can look at. But it's obvious with this 242 unit subdivision going in, that we're gonna have some growth.
What's your feelings as far as the perception out there on the domes, as far as, do they still exist in the future? I mean, do we put junior high kids in there?
So
How do we address the dome?
So it's all right with everyone, I'll just give my 2 cents.
That's what I'm after.
So I came up with a plan 15 years ago, I think, when we did the 3, 5, 10, and $20 million bond issue. Right after that failed, I came up with a plan. And this last bond that failed, I came up with a very similar plan. And my first thought is that we dump one of the domes. The reason that we dump one of the domes, there's actually a whole list of reasons, fire, security, no windows, etc. We could build a brand new high school, of course, but we are a poorer community, and so can we maximize our dollars? So we purchased land around the existing high school, build a 3-story classroom facility off near the soccer fields where they are right now. And basically what you're doing is dumping the front dome and making that all your parking lot and putting your school in the back, and then keeping the gym, and then we just gotta sell it. That's the igloo. We're gonna play Emmett, we're gonna play in the igloo, play the Huskies, and you just sell that as your main gym, build an auxiliary gym off the side, build an auditorium back there. You just add on as we go in phases. I've had people say that phases are more expensive. It's true. Phases are more expensive, but you also have to look at the community we live in, a lot of rural farmers and such. And frankly, we don't need all the farmers. We just need a portion of them, but we also need to recognize the fact that they've got the most land. They're gonna be paying the largest dollar figure for the most part, and so we've got to respect that. So if you do it in phases, you minimize the bites as you go, and I think we meet the same conditions. One of the thoughts I had is that maybe we make a campus. So we work on buying everything from Boise to Mill, and then 12 to the highway. So you buy that whole thing right there. It's about 100 acres, I think, if I read my county map right. And you put a new junior high in that same facility. Why would you do that? Well, then you don't have to double up as many services. So you have one track. You can have, there is challenges with that, of course, but you can have a whole bunch of facilities, kids that are excelling in certain areas, say math, for example. Well, they can take in 7th grade, they can take a freshman math. They can walk across campus to take advanced courses. Same with the opposite direction. If you have high school kids that aren't succeeding as well, that are still on campus, they come back into the junior high and work with teachers there. That's what we look at. But there's just lots of different things we can look at. And in the East, they're doing a lot of campus type setups where they're doing elementaries, junior highs, and high schools all within the same general right around each other. So there's less transporting and things like that. So, I guess my way is not necessarily the right way. I just think there's just a ton of ways we can look at things. And to me, to go develop a new piece of ground is a lot of money. And, I heard talk that we were looking at a new piece of ground on other side of Johns. Well, we gotta run water, you gotta run sewer, you gotta run power. So you're talking a huge startup cost just to get the grounds ready. And you've already got it at the existing facility site. So, will there be some upgrades? Of course, there's always gonna need to be upgrades done there. But that just takes one area. I mean, you still got Ola and all these other places. The question was, what do we do with the kids? Well, if you build in the parking lot, which is mostly not filled with cars in that end during the day, then you don't have to actually do anything as far as moving kids around per se. You can just wait till that's built. Once it's built, populate it, and then tear down the front dome. So you can kind of, there'll be some logistics there, of course, but you can keep everything flowing. The junior high is an issue. The last bond I talked about with Mark actually over here, and he talked me into the fact that we need to do something with the junior high. I didn't wanna do anything with the junior high, but anything you do on that is so old, you basically gotta gut it. And so, I mean, what can you build a new junior high for? I mean, we built Carberry and Shadow Butte for $12, $13 million. Times have changed a lot. But will $13 million build you one school? A junior high? No. Okay.
24.
2030?
I thought that Star
Star
Middle
was
School.
25.
It would be about 30.
What if you
But
just,
then you take in, if you preserve the gym, cafeteria, and the auditorium, and build in back, you've already got your land, you've already got, like you have at the high school. Maybe there's a way of getting it down to 15 million or something.
well, I look at it this way, if I'm a person that's just starting out and I own a little 3-bedroom house and I end up with triplets and I've gotta have more room, right? So what do? Do I just tear my house down and build a new one, or do I go do get a whole brand new house, or what do I do? And, probably the first thing I'm gonna look at is maybe I change my garage into a bedroom. And so that's kind of how I look at this. I mean, we can go tear our house down and build a brand new one, or we can just go find another place and build a new one, or we can try to work with what we already have. And for me, I'm looking at the cost, and I'm looking at what does the community want to accept? And historically, the community is not going to accept a $60 million loan. There's not. And so how can we make it work that it's something that community will accept?
One thing I look at is, when you talk about the age of middle school, at the end of its lifespan, but I went to the University of Idaho. I've been up there, there's buildings there that have been there since the school was built. If you go back east, there are buildings, if you maintain your property, they will last.
That was University of Idaho too, they've got the administration on it, it's almost 100 years old.
Yeah, my dad's 100 years old. We build in that same middle school that lasts for another 50 years at least. We might have to alter it. It was wired, like you saying, it was wired for Blackwood. We need to upgrade the whole system. The boiler's ready to go out at any time. We don't have school at all. But I still think it's a better use of our money to keep the same land and preserve like the auditorium and the gymnasium and build behind it. Like I say, put a parking lot out front once we get it done. You don't have to shut the kids, we don't have to put double shifts or something, so we don't have to turn this back into a full school. We can always put administration any place, not at the highway. Another issue, Mark brought up last night, very good idea. Maybe somebody build a building for us and lease it back to us. Lease option, it's a possibility, we gotta think outside the box, we don't have to bond everything. So that's what needs to be brought to us is, what's this gonna cost and how we put it together one pack.
I'd just like to say, all of these issues have been discussed lots and lots and lots through the facilities committee. And there hasn't been anything mentioned that was not discussed a lot over the past year. As far as the new, building on the existing property and possibly the campus, what we heard from the community was that, lots of people did not like the idea of their younger kids going to school with their kids. So that was a drawback and, a deal breaker for a lot of people. Also, the facilities committee found out that, the requirements for schools have changed as opposed to when these schools were built. So it requires a lot more acreage than currently have. So new high schools are on a lot more acreage than our current high schools are.
Sure.
So, that was also
Double, right?
considered.
About
Yeah,
60
I
acres.
think Ridgeview is on 60 acres. Yeah, so it's a lot more.
Yep. Yep.
And so those were all considerations. We were trying to be fiscally minded where we thought the priority was a new high school. As obvious, we're going to need to do something on all levels. It's not just one time and fix it all. So, we thought, new high school would be the priority. We wanted to keep the middle school to keep, to have it be functioning as some value. Maybe it doesn't look like the current middle school looks like. Maybe we cut it down and we had no idea how, or, keep the new part, but we wanted to keep that property and make it into an asset for the school district. And then also, we didn't want another elementary school. We wanted this one restored to an elementary school with perhaps, probably we needed gym. So we were trying to be fiscally minded in our recommendation. As I said, we talked a lot, and it was a very slow process going through all that. I know what I would like to see, and probably what the facilities committee was hoping for, with the motion being passed, is that we had no numbers. So we would like that proposal, the things in that proposal to have coordinating numbers to say, okay, what are we looking at? If at that point, a lot of people are saying, well, it's not doable. We don't know. We don't know the numbers. We don't know what the cost or even what it would look like to remodel the middle school. We don't know what the cost of a new high school is. So if we could get numbers for all of those parts, at that point, if we could then say, okay, this is not doable, or we gotta figure something out there, then that's fine. But we would like our proposal to be used as a baseline for moving forward.
I'm all for that. I don't know I have no idea what anything is gonna cost as far as what you guys propose.
We have no idea.
And one thing too, Craig said he got some of those numbers today, and I think the question was posed in the candidate forum last evening, as far as having anybody on this task force who has actual construction numbers. We do have an individual in the community who some of us spoke to throughout this process. I invited him as of a week or two, and then asked him last night, reminded him if he could be here to advise us. He's with a company in the Valley, that's what they specialize in, is building public schools. The reason he's kind of removed himself from ever running for a position on the board, or possibly even sitting on this, that could nullify his company from ever securing anywhere. But as much as we can lean on him or get him here, but Craig's done his research as well, so I think between those two resources, we can kind of start to shape up what we're looking at. But my biggest thing is square footage. How much square footage are we gonna need in this district based on projections? And then how much is that square footage going for in this current construction climate? Land and realty, services, all those things, that's a big one. And then where do we place it? Because as Brian indicated, it's gonna affect a lot of things with fire service, police. It's gonna have adverse effects on our community, whether positive or I'd say more positive than negative, for drawing the kind of climate into the community and being sensitive to how that's going to reshape our community. So placement of we acquire land is very vital and important to what we do. So
I think in regards to placement, say you want to put the high school on the other side of the river, are you gonna put it out in the ag community? Because Ridgeview, where they put that, Rocky Mountain, what happened to the community around it? Is that gonna be the end of my farming operation? I'm concerned about that. I would suggest that maybe you, Brian, you mentioned that you don't think that $60 million would pass. Maybe we should decide on what limit do we want to put ourselves, and then craft a plan around that dollar value, and then maybe move the numbers in that direction. Maybe 60 million is the number we're going to have to use, but maybe we ought to put that number out there, and that way we can kind of sort things out as we try to put the puzzle together here.
A question for the facilities committee, did you guys come up with did you guys look at it in that direction, or did you look at it like how much money would the community absorb?
We talked about it a lot. We did not, the bonding capacity was changing, so we didn't know at the time how much we had to work with. We were aware since we went on the Ridgeview tour, how much that one cost, and that prices had also increased. So what we did determine, part of what we did determine is that $60 million 5 years ago is not going to look like $60 million 5 years from now. We've got over 300 homes coming in. So the impact of that $60 million is not going to be felt like it would 10 years ago. It's, you know, you have $3 with, you know, another 300 homes or another 1,000 homes goes a lot farther, you know, when building a school. So I think we felt that this was, looking at everything, it was necessary. And that the way that we would try to promote it is that, you know, as more people move in, actually your taxes will go down, you know. So we can actually, our $60 million can purchase more.
Sure. Well, if you look in this packet of information that they gave, there's a section in the back here that has the entire presentation to the facilities committee. Right. And these last couple pages answer those questions that you're proposing. That last page-ish, I think it's like 2 or 3 pages towards the back. Those were just estimates from some information that we were able to gather from some of the Ridgeview things. We got the tour of Ridgeview. When we had a chance to talk to the principal who we were kind of impressed with, and one of the local construction companies. He walked around with us with each room and talked about, this is why you would need it, or this is maybe not. It was kind of an extra. You know, walking into a Ridgeview, for instance, they have a really nice entranceway, and he said, this costs more money. You don't have to do this. You can do something different. You don't have to have so much square footage that's wasted in the front area. You can have a little bit more of a secure but smaller square footage in the front. So he went to why he would do concrete, why he wouldn't do some of the other things because of the maintenance costs that happened. There were some cool things with some of the projects that the school kids did to help assist on some of the later end projects, different welding and rails that were different. We asked a lot of questions when we had a chance to walk around with them on why they did that and why we might not want to do that. You know, there's Star Middle School as well that we got a chance to walk through. And there were some really, I just thought, wow, this could be good for a high school in an Emmett area. But these were projections and numbers that we were able to get a hold of through the district on some of the discussions that they've had with contractors, building persons, companies that are in that field. And then I think there's another page right here that just one more above, it says recommendations to the board. And that was something that Amanda was mentioning where it took a year plus having all of these discussions. We when folks here were there, we talked about the remodel that you presented there, Brian. I was able to grab a hold of that. Somebody had shared that before, and I clicked it and had discussions about it with some folks, and as we went through some of these numbers, but I remember that estimation that you were throwing, that you had guesstimated was near 60 after 10 years or so. So 20 years, yeah. So after 20 years or so, you know, looking at the bond, it's 10, 20 years.
Typically, it's a 20-year bond, I mean.
So we're looking at getting into 60 for 20, or 60 for 20 with work that you were able to do. And the recommendations were, you know, I know we're getting into some of this, hopefully I'm not putting, but since we're having the discussion, we had talked about all of these different school movements. You know, I didn't go to school here, my wife went to school, and her parents farmed here, her great parents farmed here, walked, and so they were part of the community, and my father-in-law was telling me about going to school in, what was the school before? Yeah, Parkview, yeah, so, yeah, Parkview. And then one of the first years that they moved back was where the middle school is now. And we had talked about just different things, and then we had levies that now we have a new roof on a lot of that, and we have a new elevator that costs quite a bit of money. And things that you can do. Anyways, the point is that as we went through this facilities committee, we had this discussion and recommendations on what we would do. And what we felt like climate would be receptive to, trying to keep some of the buildings that we already have. I own a few buildings in town, and they're older. One of the buildings is 100+ years old. I love it. People were scared about getting into that building. Well, got into it, opened it up, and there's still good things there. And talking about the middle school, I've had conversations with Mike for years and years now about what does the guts of that middle school look like. Well, I think we can keep some of those things. I like having those buildings that make us who we were and hopefully be. So those recommendations were to move the middle school to the high school and do what we need there from an aesthetic point of view to,
Safe entrance.
safe entranceways, all the safety and security, the locks, every way you can get in that building. And it's not a very secure building.
I think it's more circular structure already indoor.
Yeah. And so, we had talked about moving the middle school to the high school, and aesthetically making that more pleasing and secure and, adding to what we need. We talked about remodeling pieces of the middle school. Not all of it is as unsafe as the upper parts or the northern parts. And we talked about moving Black Canyon as well as the elementary school kids, pre-kids that are already in this building and administrative offices over there. We can keep that gymnasium and as well as the auditorium. That is the only auditorium that we have currently for what it's doing right now. We also had talked about establishing this as a needed based on some of the projected numbers, and knowing that Carberry and Shadow Butte fifth graders aren't in the same school together. My kid was up at Shadow Butte, wanted to go to school, love it, fifth grader. Kind of want to be with all the other fifth graders. It's kind of feels like that natural movement. He's still at elementary school, so he has meetings with his friends and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, we're getting to do this and move around the different classrooms. My kids are oh man, I'm so nervous about doing that next year. Well, you wouldn't be if you're already doing it with your class, right? So class, I'm not gonna say socially, but it creates this different dynamic with some of the kids moving in and moving out. Maybe you can speak to that. And then the recommendation was to build a new high school. Now, I like holding on to as much money as I can for me and my family, but I also know that there's taxes that happen and different stipulations and land needs. Now, last I heard, it was roughly around 40 to 50 acres. I don't know if we have to go to 60. I think a lot of us like our space around us, but can we find that in areas where developing isn't as high cost as others? Terry mentioned that, if you go up on the bench and up on the view, that's gonna be a lot of cost to run, water and have sewer. Is there something down here that's possible? I don't know. In all those conversations, we really didn't get an idea of where the school board or superintendents knew of areas that might be that demographic, that makeup, right, on where we could do that. So when the facilities committee proposed and had that discussion, it was, we had a lot of these conversations with hundreds of people kind of coming through the doors. I mean, there were a lot of people that were the same.
I'm glad to hear that, really, because I think that the more people involved, the better.
Absolutely. We tried to put out there was a Facebook survey, and there were things that we were trying to do. I was on the page to try to involve more people, but we also knew that we needed to do more. We need to go to Lika and have a meeting. We need to go to Hannah and have a meeting. We need to go to Sweden and Ola and have a meeting about these types of things and see and ask and then make the decision that's in the best interest of the majority of the kiddos.
The only thing that I would add is that when we were doing all of our research and everything, the two other, Clark kind of hit on them, the two other major concerns in the community were that, like you said, the fifth graders at the middle school. I mean, it is very, very strongly felt in the community that that is not a good idea. I have a fifth grader at middle school. I hate it. I hate sending them there. This is my second fifth grader I've had at the middle school. As you know, we joke in our house, there's a lot to hate about fifth grade at the middle school. So, and that is, it's not just me, it's you don't talk to a person who is happy about having fifth graders in middle school. So that is one strong point that if the pond can promise that, that'll get a lot of people right there. And then the other concern was that, you know, with the projected growth, if we don't do something and don't do it soon, we're gonna run into a situation where we have to get modulars, and modulars are very, very strongly opposed in the community because they are viewed as a waste of money. And so,
waste of money.
yes, and
You don't
so
have to
they,
be viewed.
yes, so people are object very strongly to that. So, we have, and this is gonna be time, so it's not like, oh, we passed on, it's done. It's, you know, we have to do one part and then another part and then another part. So we're still, you know, years away from having these issues solved. And the concern with a lot of people was that we'd have to Band-Aid it before we were able to solve it, and that was not okay.
Could I get two questions answered? What's the acreage that's associated with this school right here?
Questions? Should be in your, look it up, second page.
Before I go, I just want to say, I'm excited to work on this. It's good. I'm grateful for the work you guys have done. That's awesome.
Right there. I got a new elementary, green acre space, 10 acres, total land acreage, 13 acres.
Yeah, that's my first question. My second question is my thinking correct that it's easier or more cost effective to build an elementary school than it is a middle school?
As far as cost effective, it's less expensive because typically you won't have a stadium, you don't have your athletic facilities that are added to it. You don't have your gymnasium is not needed at the same size that a high school is. So.
I just wondered if anything was ever brought up about making this the middle school.
This would not be able to be the middle school in its current state. Even as an elementary school, they would need to add a gym because there is no facilities for.
But I thought that was part of the plan.
Yes.
Put a gym in.
Yes, there would need to be a gym, but I don't think that this facility is large enough to be a middle school. And usually a middle school has more acreage than 13 acres because they need for sports as
Football
well.
facility, same kind of facility you have. So I mean, that's a great question.
I don't know that our middle school, current middle school sets on more than that.
It is, it's on 13 acres, and we're on 13.6 here.
About the same.
So it would be a kind of wash as far as acreage is concerned.
That star one sat on 30 forever. For middle school, the middle school's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 30 acres.
The new Star School,
Yeah.
was that on 30 acres?
Plus there's another 36 to the side that they are planning on buying, right?
The school also doesn't have like the labs and things that would be required, auditorium, that type of thing that would be necessary.
You know, I want you to keep in mind, HERDA.
Well, yes, that's whatever we do, that's gonna have to be figured into it.
Because HERDA's got money and they can build too.
Yes.
And then we could.
But our career technical side of it has to be figured into it.
But that's one thing that bothered me about the facilities committee, because they didn't want to talk to her to find out the size of the building they wanted, even. They just plugged in what somebody else had.
Well, I think that we said that we very much wanted her to be involved, but we did not, we thought that was the job of the board to seek out what their needs was. It was never a question for us that we wanted them involved. We saw the value of HERDA and first,
Every single,
anticipated every bit. There was never any discussion I mean, there was, but it was like, yeah, they need to be involved. It wasn't, there was never any opposition to the idea of.
That's not what we're saying.
I gave up, talked about PERDA, because I said, don't talk to us about PERDA, wait till they come to the board. And I
Yeah.
brought it up to some on the PERDA board too.
Yeah, but I think that the facilities committee did not feel, felt like that was, they didn't feel like it was a question. In their minds, it was, they're going to be involved, so let's hand it to the board to figure out what that looks like. Because it wasn't a question of if they were gonna be involved, it was absolutely they'll be
The other
involved.
issue I had was the first day I walked into the facilities meeting, I was told what the result was going to be. I was told it's going to be a new high school.
Yeah, I mean, I was there since day one, and I remember the first, it was pretty excruciating for some of it, just because that was, I mean, there were definitely people saying, yeah, we need a new high school, but there were a lot of other people saying, no, let's do this way, we went through groups and everything, so I'm sure if somebody told you that, they were prophesizing, because that was not, that was,
I
but,
know it's been I know that's been a topic of discussion for a lot of years, because I know when we look at the new ideas and directions for Emmett page in here, and not anybody that I know that was on the committee, their number 3 was the new high school.
I'm not arguing that new high schools needed. My argument is, I don't like the dome.
I would hate to teach in those.
And I've heard lots of problems with them teaching. Probably, I know a teacher that alleges that his illness is caused by the dome.
I know 2 very bright young men who said, I will not go one more day, and they only went about 3 days to go to that school and then dropped out of high school.
Madam Chair. Yeah, and I think the domes are a love-hate. I mean, let's face it. They probably, and my parents' really good friends, where one of them was on the board. And he says he wishes his name was not on the plaque when he walked in the school. And a lot got eliminated from that master plan. Myself and Chair Harris were 2 of the first classes that ever went to that school. And I don't want to eliminate it. I never had a problem at that campus. It was exciting because it was new. I didn't notice the lack of windows or whether I missed it by a year. But I didn't notice the windows or any learning deficiencies. But from an economic development standpoint, yes, I think it needs to be shored up to look nicer. The roof job, I still have contention with that. But some of these are lessons we learned coming out of the failed bond from 1 or 2 years ago. And I see it as 3 points. It's 1, inclusion, because that bond, there was no inclusion of anybody outside of district personnel. 2, even though we have a $87 million bonding capacity.
Yes, we're at 87 million bonding capacity.
Is that you don't want to go up and even hit that threshold. That's a big no-no in the community right out of the gate. And then 3rd, I completely lost my point. So.
Well, I want to touch on your second point, because growth is coming.
Oh, it was a new high school. That's what the last bond people were like, it's just a bunch of Band-Aids. Yes, the bones of the junior high are good, and we should do something with that facility. And it doesn't sound like we're discarding that whatsoever, so that's great. But it was like we're going out, we're asking the community for 20, 30 million, and we're getting nothing new in return. You know, so.
I get it. I've said this all along, and I've caught a lot of flack from the man in the green shirt right there. We can bond at 87 million right now. I do not want to screw around for 2 or 3 more years and let a bunch of people move in here and tell us we're going to bond for 87 million when we can do it for 50 or 60. I don't want it. And if we mess around too long, that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to get the people in here. They're going to tell us we can bond at that. We're going to be in Middleton, and then we're going to be broke like Middleton.
That's what I say to my former friends, because I was reached out by Tracy and Terry also. But now's the chance where your book can count as far as what's going to happen. Like you say, 10 years from now, your vote probably won't count near as much. My big concern, you look at the land use, look at what Boise High School did. Now, they built a new school on their same physical property. You don't have to expand. We don't have to have 65 acres.
Pierce Park is doing it right now. I drive by there and their construction routes right near the old building. I went 5th and 6th grade and they're building a new one.
My point to Craig is, I think we need figures for a new high school located on 65 acres and what it would cost us to put one at the domes and what it would cost us to look at the middle school as refurbishing it like the facilities committee said, or refurbishing it as a middle school.
And I like that too, because
We need the figures.
for a year and a half, I hauled product into 2 schools that were being built in Oregon, in Pendleton. And it would put our high school to shame, those 2 buildings. We would love to have either one of those schools as a high school. And they built them right around the existing building without those kids ever leaving the building they were in. I was hauling stuff, they watched you like hawks, and they had security there, and you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. But they told them right around those existing schools, never displaced anybody. I would like to know those numbers as well. With those numbers, you have to build all new facilities, though. You have to have a new gym over here, I'm talking at the high school. You have to have a new gym. You have to have a new football field. You've got to have enough ground to include soccer, all the baseball, softball, all the tennis, so we get the tennis out of the park.
And I think there's some additional land. You've got 31 acres over there now.
I don't know how much ground is around there that can be bought up.
But there's some vacant stuff behind the
Is this
football field
streamlined?
area.
Yes.
Well, that
You went clear over to Mill Road and got most of those properties, you could pretty much cover it. I think these,
When you're getting demo costs and taking out the.
or moving houses or whatever.
But just when we, I'm sorry, I just know that Perta's discussion with the one landowner, wasn't it somewhere close to $500,000 for that piece of property? Ag land typically, not ag land, but I mean, you're looking at about 10,000 an acre. So if you look at how many pieces of property you have, I'm just gonna throw this out there, you look at how many pieces of property you have there from the high school to Mill Road at $500,000 a piece, you're looking at probably 6 pieces of property. So you're $3 million to purchase that chunk of land. And you could buy 50 acres for $50 million or $5 million and have it, again, you're gonna have, if you're correct, infrastructure to bring it in depending on where you put it. But then you've got a clean piece of land to build on. And I'm just throwing that out there. I agree, you could build around there, and that's kind of what Boise did, but don't forget, Boise doesn't house some of their athletic facilities, their football facilities not there. Their track's not there.
Yep.
So those are things we have to take into consideration. Those buildings are amazing. I love what Boise's done there, but we gotta think about that, and I think you can do that. And you can do it right there on that property. I can get the best numbers we can. It's gonna be by the square foot. But it also depends on what facility you put in and how you do that is what it'll be. I can tell you right now that Middleton, I think, was about 210 a square foot when they built Middleton High School, or maybe 190, and now it's up around 290 is what we're looking at per square foot, and it's just going up. And that's
keep
with
going up
land.
too.
Yes, it's.
I was approached by one of the people that has a property next to the horse farm. Who said, my 2 acres, you could have for nothing. The back half of those lots aren't being utilized. So there's probably 10 acres right there across the back part of the football field that would be purchased for a reasonable price.
Could be, yeah, or it could be
I don't know.
the one piece of
The one
property
thing
goes
They find out that
down.
you're actually gonna do it.
Well, yeah, I think the lady with the horse farm is trying to hold her up. And they're not gonna bite, and it's not worth that much. I think it's praised for $250. So she's way out there in left field.
I've got down here a couple things I just want to make sure, because you want to kind of get some, on the middle school, just kind of what are the things that the priorities that need to be fixed in that.
Well, we know the boiler's no good. We gotta
Boiler's
keep
no
the heat.
good, heating, cooling systems, what we kind of do there. Cost for a high school on 50 plus acres, let's say, of new land. Again, I can give you some basic numbers, I can give you what the Treasure Valley says, cost to kind of build. Again, they're gonna give you a square footage cost, and I will tell you that, and most construction firms will tell you that the longer you extend that construction period out, if you do it in phases, the more it's gonna cost you. And then cost for the work on the middle school, right? And those are the 3 things I got, and there are 4 things so far. Is there other?
I'd like to know what it'd take to put a gym on the back of this building and maybe put a couple more classrooms here.
Convert this back to what, like we talked previously,
like
elementary
yeah,
school,
yeah,
maybe.
elementary school.
Bring the 5th grade back.
You were talking of putting a number of buildings or rooms on this building and
You know, and again, I'm not trying to guide you anyway, so don't take this task, you know, you have some great facilities here where you're exactly right. You could do some things where you build a high school. It gives you the breathing room you currently need. Now you take your four grades out of the domes and you put them into a new high school that we would, if you went out, I would recommend probably 1,000 student high school with some bid alternates to go up to 1,200, so that you have room for growth above what you're gonna have. So if you did that on a piece of property and you moved your junior high out, then this is just me personally talking, move them out and into the domes with the idea of actually doing exactly what you say and building that complex up as a junior high complex over the next 10 years. So now you build a building next to your domes, okay? Because that's 30 acres is perfect for a junior high. It's not perfect for a high school. Then you take a plant facilities levy to start remodeling some of these, what we've talked about, which is all part of it. Now you put a gym on here for about $4 million and the remodeling here. Now you got access here. I know that's just me personally on some numbers that I've looked at. I'd have to sit down, but that gives you your elementary growth. It gives you your junior high, which is only 3 grades now because you've pulled your 5th grade out of there. So now 3 grades in that dome go from 750 students down to 500. So now you have some room for growth there. And then as you build your elementaries up, you could actually pull your 6th grade out if you needed to and only go to 2 grades while you're waiting to build that second section, you know, of your junior high. That's just some thoughts. Again, I'm not trying to direct it. And then you've got $500,000 that if we're gonna look at OLA. What are we gonna do at OLA? You know, so that's another thing we have to think about.
Well, was ready to get started fundraising.
We're working on
We're
it.
ready to go after it.
There's so many things out there.
Is there any, I mean, I did last night, go ahead.
Hold on, let's run over. And you can probably help me, you got 27 children and you got room and suite.
Mhm.
So that's my question, why they could go
You
to.
put your kindergartner on the bus at 6:15 in the morning,
No, I
sit them
teach my
down.
kindergarten.
I mean, seriously.
Okay.
You put
Seriously.
first grade, 2nd grade kindergartners on a bus really early in the morning, send them to suite. They don't get home till 4 o'clock at night. You really wanna do that?
What time they getting on the bus to go to Ola?
They don't get a bus, basically. They get picked up on the road at about 7:15, at school about 7:30. And they get a bus to go home, and they're home by 15 minutes after school's out.
So the kindergartners have to get on the bus at 6:15.
Well, I mean, either that or you're gonna double your bus routes.
You double your bus route. I mean, you're gonna send your high school kids on one bus, and that's what we've actually talked a little bit about. Currently, our Shadow Butte kids, our longest bus route for our Shadow Butte kids is 47 minutes. Our kids are on the bus. Ola's on the bus, I think, that I mentioned, it was 12 minutes, and then the extended time from Ola down to Sweet would be another 18, so they'd be on the bus for 30. So
Well, I'm
it is,
just, I'm
no,
not saying long-term, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
When we were talking out here, you were.
Oh, you're talking about short term?
yeah, we're talking short term,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
not talking long-term, I'm just talking. That's what I'm talking.
Amanda, as far as, in my mind, as far as bonding, the money that it's gonna take to build a building up there, I know people aren't gonna wanna hear that, it's gonna be minuscule. I mean, realistically, it's not even gonna be noticed. We just have to do it all in the same
Could be part of the same
capacity.
package.
It's gotta be the same package. The money that it's gonna take to do
Either
that,
renovate or build.
Shut off.
well, I think it's beyond the point, but
I thought you did.
when you can build a new school cheaper than.
Actually, it came back about the same.
You're not gonna.
Well, I know, but when you can do it brand new, I mean,
Haven't heard a word from Clint. Would you like to say hello at least? Did
I'm just listening.
I don't think you
Yeah.
got your email either.
you not get an email?
Check your junk folder.
You wanna
That
send
should be in
one-
there.
You wanna send one to me right now?
What it is I.
I got
believe it's just
RHRB.
Okay.
Oh, that's wrong. Yeah, Connor, right?
Yep, ROHRB.
ROHRB? No. Okay, that's, I put mine, so ROH.
I've got a wrong one for John Sonny too. Okay, yeah.
ROHRB Connor, right?
Yep, all lowercase at msn.com.
Okay, I apologize.
Normal. Yeah. Over there. So.
What did you say?
Man, Mr. Teeter. I just wanted to, so here's, and I know what happened?
These are all at our computers right now.
Yep, you have all this info in your computer. So just to talk a little bit about taxes, so you know where we are. We saw a big drop in our taxes down to $1.32 this year because the bonds from the original $3.55 is where we were in 2000. That's our highest point, $3.55 in 2014. I'll give you some projection numbers, but you're looking at about, for a $60 million bond, you're looking at, and I'll give you, it comes out about $2.40 per thousand, okay? So because the value's gone up. the
Per 100,000.
rates are up. What?
Per 100,000.
No, for $2.40 per thousand.
Per thousand?
Per thousand.
Okay,
So, and I also have the ag land, so I can give you some estimates on
I
ag.
don't need to get mine what they are.
Okay, so we have them as well, so I mean, I'm like, irrigated ag land for 1,000 acres on that $2.43 is close. The average ag cost, I think, or tax is about 1,000 in Jim County, so you're looking at about $2,000.
Ag lands at almost 2,000, 1,800. We've been fighting with the assessor on it, so.
Well, the assessor gives me the numbers, and so I look at the numbers, so,
Take the bench ground, and that's what we've been talking to them, so
Okay.
it's 1,800.
but I just tell you what the numbers they give me, so, if you fix it and fight it, that's great, but I know, so we'll give you all that information, but when you start to look at those numbers, between 60 million and 70 million, you're looking at about a 40-cent jump, per thousand. So you go almost up to 290, it's about 290, so you're almost $3, which pushes you up quite a bit if you look at it. So I just wanted to give you those numbers to think about, and I'll give you the hard copy of it, I just didn't want to do it today. But if you're thinking 60 million or 70 million or somewhere in between, it gives you an idea what it would cost, and it would put you up above where you were. Yep.
Hey, one thing that we've talked about a little bit is a facilities bond for maintenance in addition to the bond. Because we deal with the once, even if we build something, we've got to maintain it going forward. And I'm thinking something in the range of $1 million to $2 million a year. Is that something we plug in with the bond at the same time? Because it's going to be a big pill to swallow.
That's why I don't think you go after something like 70. Again, I wouldn't go after 70 million. I'd go after something that, if you look at the facilities recommendation, somewhere close to 60 million, and you can do the things you choose to, that's not gonna fix all your fixes, but you do a plant facility at the same time, and that's a 10-year plant facility of 0.2%, which 2/100 of 1%, which could mean you get up to, I think, 2.5 million a year. That's earmarked only for student occupied buildings and it's the maintenance of those buildings. So that includes, so when you have, Shadow Buttes at we're at our 20 year, they're gonna need a new roof. Well, now that money's taken out, you plan that out over the next 10 years, that Shadow Buttes roof's gonna come out of this plant facilities fund in 2 years, Carberry's gonna be in 3 years, Carpet's gonna be in 4 years, and just in those buildings, and then you build that out. So I think that's the projection. I think that's a fiscal responsible thing to do in a district, and gives you, so you don't build brand new buildings and they look real good for 5 years, and then we're back into that same cycle of how we're gonna catch up.
Couldn't you also use those same funds to put the gym on this building?
Yep, you can put that money aside
Buildings.
and add some phases into it. That's why you don't need to be bond out as high originally.
And so then you alleviate, the other levies that go into general fund and you do away with a portion of your general
You
fund.
wouldn't have the supplemental, you just have the,
Yes, so I mean, you wouldn't need the supplemental. I think this year we have 1.4 million, no, actually 1.5 million in the supplemental, and a big chunk of that is using your maintenance and operations, and so you can pull some of that out so that you wouldn't need that. I mean, your supplemental cover is, you guys have used the emergency levy, the general obligation levy to cover a lot of your transportation and your, we've used it to cover transportation and maintenance. And as we move forward in that plant facility, those things can be offset within that P&F fund. 1.4, I think the last numbers I was looking at is about 1.4 million can be pulled out into a plant facilities levy and legally done. Does that make sense? And then so that when you drop off that supplemental, now you're right back to kind of where we're at within the general fund. That makes sense. I can give you some numbers on it. I just didn't want to get into a lot of detail tonight about it.
So if a bond were, let's say we ran a bond in May, and it might pass, how quickly can something be done?
On what?
In terms of money for doing something for any of the other schools? I mean, are we a year out, or what's the timeline on something like that?
Well, the way the interest rates are right now, that you'd want to, if we can keep these interest rates, we want to sell those bonds as quickly as we can, because we're looking. When I asked Eric Herringer, who's with Piper Jaffray, to run numbers for us as a district, he figures 3.02%, 3.02% interest, which is 0.5% higher than what it is currently. So we're about 0.5% difference. So when the bond passes, we immediately would want to go into the process of selling those bonds. And then that money basically goes into an account. It's used for that construction purposes, which is what is on that ballot. And then you start the process. If we had contractors lined up for OLA right then, and we knew what we were doing, you could actually do that. But typically, they're not going to come in and be lined up and ready to go. So, but the money would be available right after you've sold the bonds.
So we're talking a year because of the.
No. Well, you're talking a year to probably, it depends on if you're going to build a building. I apologize. If you're going to build a building, you're probably going to be a full year next year, setting the position we're in now. I don't think we could get something built, between.
I was just trying to figure out the timeline.
Yeah.
Because people have been asking.
Oh, yeah. And to build a high school, you're talking 3 years.
But facility money would go in, like I understand, as soon as it starts to come in.
Plant facility money is, so you put that in, you really actually don't get the money until your taxes come in that first January, but it can be a part of that. So if you were to pass it in May, it'd be just like the emergency levy, only the taxes, you can put it in your budget to start working through it. But you wouldn't want to spend it all before January, because if people don't pay their taxes, then you're out that. So you want to kind of timeline it out. But yeah, so once it's there, once it's been obligated, it's there. And yeah.
The danger I see of doing both is one would pass and one would fail.
So a bond for a new school needs a supermajority, right? State of Idaho. 0.2%, or the 0.02%, I believe is the actual number, not 0.2, needs 55%. So it's a lower number. If you run them at the same time, legal counsel has said that you only need that 55%. If you run the bond first and then run that, then you're looking at, you'd have to go to a higher percentage to pass it.
So it's better to run it together
Or run the plant facility ahead of it.
or ahead of it.
Run it in March, run the bond in May.
Yeah.
But then you have another issue of one, the first passes, the second one doesn't, then you're, what do you say?
So now you're sitting on a P&F fund to just fix buildings. You have that.
Well,
There's a lot of
Maybe
these
some
things.
special, is it March or maybe one of those special ones where we have to actually, it's March?
On the statistics, March is more likely, a higher rate, passing rate.
I think that the community would appreciate seeing the maintenance plan with the bond.
Mhm.
So I don't know that would I would like the idea of running them together, because I think that they could help each other. And we wrote it saying, we have a plan, this is our new building, this is our way to maintain it for the foreseeable future. You know, it's more of an organized.
And the other building.
plan. Yeah, and the other buildings.
And plus, when structures are new, it requires less input financially into the
And yes, and one of the big objections to the former bond attempt was the maintenance. I mean, people were just an automatic no because they said, well, they haven't taken care of the buildings. So if we can prove that there's a plan to take care of the buildings, I think we might get some of those automatic no's.
Well, Amanda, one of the issues that precipitated Mike being here is the fact that a lot of us don't know what Mike does. We don't know how many projects are out there that he actually, maintains the structures as on an ongoing basis. And I think once the community gets a better feel of how much work he does, and my question to him tonight was, how much more work is to be done? So, and we can put those numbers together and say, a maintenance facility will do ABC for us.
Yeah.
So,
I think the community just wants to see results. I think a lot of them feel betrayed, like they paid all these bonds and levies and stuff and they haven't seen the results from what I've got from people. I don't know how many times we've seen that they were gonna put air conditioning in the high school and this and that and yada, and it just seems like they wanna see results.
we just put a roof on the gym, and that was last year's, 2 years ago's facility. And I said, we need to put a sign up that says, this is your money at work.
Yeah, we're talking about enhancing communication in this district, which I've noticed great strides on social media with that already. Where, we have these silos of communication going in individual schools, which kudos to all the staff for that. And now it's being centralized. And from a PR standpoint, it looks awesome. And then to bring in a communications public information officer, but also the signage. So there's the visibility, people can tie that all together. But I too caution separating the plant facility from the bond, because you're just creating a time gap of confusion, and there's more strain on us to better educate the community. We have the plan, and then here's the maintenance that's coming right behind it, or in front of it actually, so.
Yeah, put it in front of it.
I know that's what we talked about, the facilities committee. There was definitely saying, we didn't talk about this, I don't know, this maintenance, social media. We had talked a lot about it when we were going through this. And I did want to mention, because you'll see it right here on the assessment, it does say CTE programs included in that estimate back here.
No, but they never talked to CTE about what that was my.
As far as square footage needs.
But I don't think square footage was discussed at all in the facilities. It was, what is the facility you currently need? Our permit meeting just the other day. Our permit meeting the other day, when the board was kind of discussing this, we said, we want you to be involved in this. And then the idea of building a shell for the CTE program, and then they put the money, or they put the equipment within that. I mean, that's because I will tell you, and I told the board this, I'm looking out for the best interests of Emmett School District, not just PERDA, and not PERDA at all, because if PERDA goes away, that building needs to be ours. And it would be, but that's what if we're gonna build a building that has a CTE program in it, and it's PERDA, PERDA's using it, it's gonna be Emmett's building, because, what if PERDA goes away, or what if we split and go different directions? We still have to have our facilities, because our kids deserve it.
That was me.
No, I'm on board with you. But I think that was the bigger up was just what square footage. Because it's gonna be figured into it.
All right, we've got a lot of things. Does the date work for you guys that we set up for next meeting? I think it's November 4th. Can I put that in there?
I don't know. To record it.
I like the way that you get different days to be.
I hate to say this, but I did this because I'm going on vacation this next week. So the 4th is the only day before the ISBA conference, which we head out to that on the 5th.
Uh-huh.
So the 4th, would that work?
What time do you have a meeting?
That's up to you. That's why I just threw the dates out there and said, what works for you guys? Not work, that doesn't work.
November 4th.
November 4th.
The Monday?
November 11th, or Wednesday?
Yeah.
November
13th.
That's the board meeting, date, so then we could ask the community their thoughts as well. We could invite the community for an hour. That, not everyone would have to be there, but if we have some ideas of what is our priority, is it gonna be remodel or rebuild it, or build a junior high, or what is it gonna be? Here's our list of topics or things, ask for community input. That's what I was thinking.
So before the school board meeting?
Yeah, and then the board meeting would be at 7, and then, we just have an hour, about a 5 to 6:30 time that, people can come in and talk and say, hey, here's what we think. Because the more people we get involved in this, the more people we get out to it. But does November 4th, what time would work for everyone?
4 o'clock, I like better. 4 o'clock's nice.
Some people have jobs.
How many people have conflicts with work?
What time did you say? 6 o'clock. I don't wanna do it any earlier than 6 o'clock.
It's a Monday.
Plenty of time.
I was thinking of what we did today.
That was 6, I think.
Well,
We
before we
started-
start at 4,
Right.
our other meetings.
We
As long
started
as they
making
do-
this one at 6.
Yeah.
As long as they don't drag on until 10.
No,
6?
6.
We put a cap on the time.
As long as they don't drag on till 10.
Yeah, it's a long ways for you to drive.
I try to keep them short.
I'd say, I'd give it 2 hours.
6 to 8.
We're 15 minutes short, 2 hours. I would give it just a buffer.
Have all like, staff, kept drinking.
And we'll just meet here, you know.
Okay, next meeting, transport, okay.
So we're here.
Meet here at the
6 o'clock.
district office.
6 o'clock.
Okay,
6 o'clock on that date. 6 to, you wanna
6
say
to
we're
8.
done by 8, or do you wanna go till 7:30?
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Okay, excellent. 6 to
Okay.
8.
And then you want here in room 3.
And then the 13th is just kind of, we get that out, say here's, after if we have some ideas, come and give your input on what we've been talking about. So that day, we'll want to try to get into some small groups and unless you have a different idea, get into small groups. Okay, here's the buildings, here's the data that I've given you as far as the cost for a building based on what we, but what are our needs? I hate to do it based on what kind of money we have. I'd rather you guys say, we really need this building, or we really need this fixed, and then we go, okay, well, how much can we get done for how much money? But it's up to you.
Before we leave here, I wanna know personally what our need is as far as how do we accommodate our growth? What's gonna be our best bang for our buck? Is a junior high really gonna be the best bang for our buck? Or is accommodating for growth for those students to move into gonna be the best bang for our buck? Cause I'll make no bones about it. In my mind, it's a new high school. You're always gonna get the most bang for your buck, growth on the top end.
But I like Craig's idea. It just brought us to put those junior high kids in those stones. If we have a plan to not make that happen, then I'm more on board.
Well, I don't think that this is like a forever one, obviously, this will.
20 years.
Yeah, this will solve it, but chances are.
Oh, this is
build
only
it,
the
It's like if you give a mouse a cookie, if you build them at a new high school, you're gonna have all of this other stuff happen and probably more and more growth. So eventually, we hope to put it off 20 years, but eventually we're gonna need more growth somewhere. And I think at that instance, I like the idea of building around the junior high at the high school location. I think that would be great.
Just as an example, Boise High has got it kind of dialed in, and Boise School District has dialed in. They know every 5 years what their next building's gonna be, what they're gonna redo. But that's taken them years to get to that. And so the idea is when they come back and in 5 years, the value has gone up, or whatever, or they've cut that much out of their bond cost, then when they add that $55 million, elementary, probably $10 million elementary cost into that, it doesn't raise the taxes anymore. It keeps it level. You'll never see them drop is the issue, but you'll keep it level, and they've been able to stay with that. But Boise's kind of, Boise is just kind of surrounded, and you have some growth out the back, the east and to the north. But with West Ada is behind schedule. I mean, and that's what worries me about here is if we don't jump on this, because even if you pass a bond in May, you will not see kids in that building until August of 2022?
Yep.
At the earliest. And that's if we use a design probably that's already pretty much, not a cookie cutter, but one that's already been used, because then you just make it yours. Because you're talking, 2.5, 3 years to get that. And so what does that plan look like in 5 years? Is that when you add that, you have those kids in the dome for 2 years as you're building your next phase, and then you move on and you do this or whatever. And I know you hate the idea, but I have a hard time, I'll tell you, I'd have a hard time as a taxpayer saying, I don't like the looks of the dome, tear it down, when it's a good gym. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's not saying gym. You think it has to be maintained.
They're not a front one.
Yeah, you tear,
But
you're
that-
good, yeah, you'd be better off to just go take the front one and then.
Yeah, but that front one could be a great rec center. That could be a great community center. There's things you could do with that. There's a lot of things you can do. The
Well,
building,
could we sell those 2 domes?
I don't know. I'll put it for sale sign. You can sell anything in your property.
Tomorrow
The
morning,
new Dollar Tree.
in bright orange marker for sale on it by Cherry Jones.
Actually, school districts sell buildings all the time.
I mean, Boise, they tear down and sell that property and move on. I mean, they've done it all over the place.
But
I think that's down, I don't want to speak for that.
No,
I think so, and I think what,
I just think it's a nice work with the community to me.
yeah, I think you're thinking great with, but I think with, how old the buildings are, it's probably not ready to be tore down and moved on. But you're right, there are capabilities as, in my feeling, as that grows, there's gonna be businesses that come in that can
Utilize it.
And who knows what.
I know it's a goofy idea, but wouldn't it be amazing if somebody come in, and give you $1 million for it? Well,
That's a good idea.
Hospital.
How about Jay? Absolutely.
I will say what Clint said is huge
I said that
though.
for Sharon.
This community wants to see some results. They want to see something happen. I mean, so if we do this, we've got to be behind it. I mean, I'll tell you, it's little things. I will tell you this, when I drove into this school for my interview, because I grew up here, one of the first things I noticed, and this is not bashing, but I noticed our basketball courts out here. The rims aren't up, and those little things in this community make a big difference, and those are things we got to kind of clean up, because it's taxpayers' money. I mean, I know that seems really weird, but I used to play basketball out there all the time. And I'm going, okay, we're not taking care of that. How are we taking care of our buildings? So,
amen.
not that we're not taking care of it. It just hasn't been a priority at this point. Does that make sense? Because we don't have kids out here right now, but that's just an example.
One of our priorities is get the 5th grade out of the middle school.
That has to be a top
And
priority.
I think that's a priority to do something with this facility to get the things we've talked about, moving 5th grade back to Carberry and bringing kindergarten and preschool into here. Things we, possibly, maybe that could be done quicker than high school. We could have a gym up here one summer probably.
If you start busing kids to that many different schools, does that cause an issue? Where they're going to so many different places, time issue or anything?
Bus routes.
So-
You'd have to have more buses.
I'm not sure, Sean is the wizard at that.
Shauna takes care of that, but I guess I agree that the priority we need to figure out. I'll say it, the 5th grade needs to get out of there. One of the easiest ways we could do this is do away with a boardroom here and move down this hall. And again, I haven't talked to principals, but at least pull our Carberry's kindergartner students over here and run them down this wing. You can have pre-K and kindergarten together in this building. It's just an idea, or you could actually bring 5, 6 over here, or 5th grade over here if you really wanted to. And that wouldn't really be much cost because you really don't need a gym for kindergarten PE. You know, we have the lunchroom and then we use that as far as for PE practices. As you become a full elementary, you're gonna wanna add a gymnasium.
No, the only concern, I mean, that was discussed, the only concern with that was that parents didn't especially like the idea of their kindergartners going to school with the Black Canyon High School students.
But I will tell you that it's probably one of the most beneficial things you can do because that group of students will connect with this group of students. And then they
Yeah, I
really,
was saying
and
you
it's
have
just,
to definitely
you
do
have
some work to
yeah, it's a
convince
lot,
people.
it's more of a PR thing than anything
Yes,
else.
that's exactly right.
Because I've seen it happen where you have, and they would be completely isolated from one another. It would only be the few that would come over to help. And we did that at Baker. We had high school students and our kinders were at the end of our high school hall. And those teachers loved it, because they had aides that would come down and work with those kids, you know, and those kids connected really well. And you can see that with alternative school, you know. It's a scary thing to begin with, but you know, you have two great wings that are completely, you know, they're separated by not only an office, but also right now, the district office, so.
That's part of the educational piece too, because we as a board, before I was on the board, there was a cultural survey for Black Canyon High School and one for Carberry to assess what was going on in these schools, and the surveys were very positive for Black Canyon. So I think that's another, you know, internally by staff and all those things. So that's part of the educational piece, because I think Black Canyon gets a bad rap, like it's a Michelle Pfeiffer, Coolio maybe or whatever, but that's not really the case, you know, so.
I just have one other question. Is it possible to get any, money from the developments that are going in? Because I think that would also go a long way if we're to be able to say, okay, we have this money that was donated to purchase land, you know, that type of thing. So with the developments going in, is it possible that the school district could get some money from that?
You're talking impact fees?
Yeah, planning and zoning is gonna have to deal with that.
Well,
As
it's
far as-
county commissioner, planning and zoning don't make the rules.
Well, I know, but planning and zoning is gonna be the ones giving them the permits to do that.
Yeah, but county commissioners have to approve it, so.
So both of them would have to approve it, and you'd have to talk to both of them.
Our thought originally was every subdivision ought to set aside land for schools that could be used as a park, open space, if we don't need it, until we need it, we could sell it if we get the money or we build schools. So, yeah, we talked about it. It's something that we're pursuing.
And the people I've talked to over the hill, that was their biggest complaint. Anybody that owned any amount of ground over the hill was that the investors would come in, no concern to the impact that it had on the community whatsoever, because all they were worried about was their dollars. And
Well, I think it's pretty standard request for new development to help the infrastructure. I mean, like,
I don't know.
well, I know that like
it is
in
or not.
Nampa, Amazon is paying for part of Highway 16.
Yeah, but that's a little different though, because they're getting kickbacks from that. The developers wouldn't get any kickbacks. It would be, you know, it would be them. The only, Avamore is the only one that I know of that is really, in my mind, that I've seen that's had to build a school. The amount of homes they've put over on the other side of Horseshoe Bend, the only way they got that done is the county required them to build their own grade school over there. Because it was such a large number of homes.
Yeah.
Well, the one, I mean, we're
242 homes?
Yeah, 42, we're talking about the.
Well, that's phase 1.
Okay, phase 1, I think right now just has an area for the church or
Right.
something, right? So, I mean, we're talking, city, it's within city limits, so city council and mayor. And you said stuff's being worked on with that, or?
We've talked about it.
So they've delayed the permit until November, I come back, it's November, I think it's November, it might be this meeting, November 4th, and so they've asked for a letter from the school district of what we want, or not what we want, what's the impact and how will it affect our schools? And I'm actually working with Rich Boucher out of Middleton, who was the superintendent that ended up getting land within those subdivisions. We're meeting tomorrow to actually write that letter. What are the things we need to look at, because that's an impact of 242 homes, to set aside 10 acres for a school that can be a park until they choose to do that. Because and a lot of subdivisions want it in elementary. They don't want a high school, but they don't mind an elementary right in their community. So, and I know how Dr. Boucher used to do it was, okay, build us a school because this is the impact, or donate the land, and they would always donate the land. And so that's how they've done that. They've never had one build a school other than Avamore, I think, but.
Hidden Springs has one.
Hidden Springs.
Oh, really?
Yes. Nice.
So, but that's something that we can always request, doesn't mean we'll get it. So we can ask for, an impact fee, because the issue with that subdivision and where it's gonna go is that's within the Carberry School District, which is already full at a capacity, so you're gonna have to redraw your district lines. If you're gonna make this an elementary school, you wouldn't have busing from it, because you've gotta be, you're gonna have, sidewalks. If you have your sidewalks, you can't have safe school busing, which means those kids will have to walk down. And so there's a lot of things we'll have to be considered.
So where does the impact fees go that are already right now? Like anytime you
I don't
sell,
think there is any.
oh yeah,
Really?
oh yeah.
Impact
Yeah,
fees
Jim
go to
County has-
probably your infrastructure within your city and your county, or that'd be probably your fire and your city water and those, I would assume.
Like-
I don't know. That's
Like
what-
just for instance, if I was to sell a 5-acre lot, an impact fee is between $5,000 and $7,000.
Really?
It goes to Jim County.
But
Where does that go?
It goes towards safety, is what Flip Phillips is
Well,
told.
and a lot of times you're just talking about curbs, sidewalks, and gutters.
Yep.
So
It
But
goes-
what if you're out in the county, nothing ever gets built, so where does the money go?
So I had a piece of my sold up there, on the bench off of Central, and it went back to the county for when or if Central ever needs to be widened.
So they got this massive account filled up, yeah,
So
right.
I know we had to.
Like Social Security.
And sell that, and I agree that they're gonna be able to pay that. When Central ever needs to be widened. I'm really saying, when do we ever see that happen?
Can I
Just in case it's what they wrote in.
watch the account?
I understand it went to the county. I guess it just depends on where you are though, closer to the road or further back or.
Well, I would think that city dollars would stay in the city and county dollars would stay in the county, as far as that matter. They're not gonna, it's not like it's.
Because there's irrigation dishes and everything, so that's run along that. So that has an impact.
But the way you explained it to me, that strictly goes, it doesn't go for like schools.
Too bad you couldn't get a percentage of it would go to the local school,
And that was, when I talked to Flip about it, that was his biggest complaint. He said, I've watched it for years, and they farm 2,000 acres over there, and they're big farmers. And he said, we've dealt with it for years. He said, these developers come in, they build around us, they don't care what it does to us as far as that, impacting the number of people that come in and the students, population stuff, they've never cared. And so, it impacts so much. And that's one thing that we gotta be cognizant of with these homes coming in. It's, the more people you have to have fire, you have to have more of those needs. And so there's this community, and I said it at the last board meeting, we're behind the 8 ball, plain and simple. We put things off for so long, we are behind the 8 ball. Because it's not just school we're looking at with our tax dollars going up.
Well, like you said, it's kind of the start of a lot of things that are going to happen, hopefully in the right way, fiscally responsible.
And I told Mr. Woods is the thing we're running into here, we're unique in the area that we're in. Because we're not a Weezer, we're not a Fruitland, we're not a New Plymouth. It's not growing there yet. We are a bedroom community area, just like CUNA. We're that close to everything that everybody wants to do. To Nampa, to Caldwell, especially Nampa and Boise, Meridian. We're unique in where we sit because we're We're 23 minutes from what everybody wants to go do. You move on the other end of the valley, you're still 45, 50 minutes from what everybody, so that's why people were looking at this. The only reason I'm pushing this so hard is my sister-in-law is a real estate agent. And she said it would scare you, the projected growth for Jim County.
Well, yeah, and I've talked to a developer over the hill, and he said in all the conversations he's in, which I'm sure is an embellishment, that Emmett's coming out a lot.
And she is a real estate agent in Boise, so you know she's looking. She wants to make that, she wants to make that dollar.
Yeah, Star right now is number one, and then so that tells you where it's coming. I mean, that's the number one. So, and it
Star is almost connected to Emmett if you go from the foothills very far.
And it's connected to, if you
It
look at
goes a
Eagle,
lot-
it's
it
connected to
goes
Eagle
very far from
basically,
us.
and so.
Did you see
it's going this direction.
I know we're getting a
Yeah,
lot back here. Did you see the subdivision that's going in over there in that 2-year phase?
Where at?
Highway 16.
Highway 16 on the Eagle side and Star side.
Oh, yeah. I have
920 homes.
Yeah.
No way. That part that's coming.
9 miles.
On farm there?
9 miles from us, 920 homes.
What's this field out here in Plaza that you got flags and everything on?
I think that's that one, is that piece of property that they're split to?
That's cut for 16 houses.
Yes, they're
And then
not.
there's the ones on 52.
Those are all sold too, every one of those ones, I
Big
can't
lots
find a
of
place
them
for. These are 75 acres, so I can build a house.
You live in the dome.
For the right price, I might just do that.
Can't separate the parent.
Can we throw that into the contract?
No, you probably quit.
Madam Chairman.
As long as you get a
Ms.
swimming
Ms.
pool,
Morris is
sure.
tired.
Okay, motion to adjourn and then,
Madam
Go ahead and
Chair, what I was
motion.
thinking is, what if we, if we're gonna add a committee member from the facilities committee, officially, we could do that at the beginning of the next meeting, right?
Yeah.
On the fourth.
yeah, because it's a work session, we can just put an action item first thing.
Okay.
This is
Oh,
awesome.
you thought you were gonna add.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, you're part of this, is not yet.
We need someone to.
Actually, again, I'm just telling you.
Okay, who wants the motion to adjourn for
I
me?
make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you.
I second it.
Teeter?
Favor say aye.
Aye.
You hear that, Heather?
I didn't hear a vote out of this one.
I better go,
You're gonna say nay?
You're so sorry.
A, okay, so it's 5-1, okay. No, it's 4-1, because we lost one. And it is 8:02. Do I have notes from my board members? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have notes for me? Copy real quick.
Amanda, thank you.
Nothing to give up. This folder right here is to stay.